All right. Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer, but you probably already know that if you're here watching at this point. Just wanted to basically, I thought I was going to do a live stream just to talk about fireworks, but instead, uh, and it looks like my intro got cut off here. So, oh well. Yeah, I wanted to do a video to talk about fireworks basically, but then we had a really interesting motion that was dropped off on our lap. So I guess we'll look at that because this has been getting a lot of questions about it and people are really curious. So let's, I guess, dive right in here. This is the defendant and counterclaim plaintiff. So that's Amber Heard. So Amber Heard's post trial motions. So they've already had a trial and now she's asking for some stuff. I also want, oh, look, we got Scott Cardinal here in the chat here. And I also want to give a shout out to where was it right here? Shade 221 for stealing the joke I was going to make. Things that explode and things on fire to describe this weekend and what Amber Heard has done to her career. So shout out for getting to that joke before I did. All right. So basically, they just note that there's a number of things here that they're asking for. So they want to set aside the jury's verdict on all three counts. And they want to dismiss the complaint, which means case over. She just wants the judge to declare that she's won and to investigate potential improper juror service. So lots of attention has been paid on this one, and we'll have to see what we're looking at here. All right. So, and I see Shade saying, sorry for jumping the punchline. It's okay. It was a good joke. Nobody has full credit on that. So let's have a look here. And there's a certificate of service just to say that they delivered that properly. That's nothing to worry about. I did get some people asking, what does this mean about this certificate of service? All that means is you actually sent the documents to the other side. All right, so let's have a look at what all they're going on with here. And you can see it's a fairly lengthy document. It's got the table of contents is fairly common here. You'd always want to include that, but yeah, more than 40 pages and a whole lot of case law cited. I am not going to be able to go through all of this case law just because, yeah. And I see, will they ever charge her with perjury? In the States, I'm going to say no. I don't think they will. There might be a possibility that they will in Australia, but we'll see. All right, so defendant and counterclaim plaintiff Amber Laura Heard, Ms. Heard, respectfully moves this court to set aside the jury's verdict on all three counts of the plaintiff and counterclaim defendant's John C. Depp's complaint, dismiss the complaint, alternatively to order a new trial. So you note that that they don't say, hey, order a new trial as the outset, but they start off with, please dismiss the complaint. And then later in the body of this, they're saying, and potentially order a new trial. And they want to investigate this potential improper juror service. That is, we'll get to that one because the claims made there are a little bit wild. So they say, in support, Ms. Heard relies upon the prior record, which of course you would be, including objections and arguments during hearings and at trial, motions in limine, motions to strike, and the arguments following. And I see Andy, the game maker. Hey, dude, hope all is well. Look forward to doing another escape room with you. Absolutely. That was a ton of fun, and we need to make sure that happens again. Jacobs Madre 24 Forever, thank you for the new membership. And Pam in Wonderland, JD should get an injunction to stop Amber Turd from repeating what she's been found guilty of. Now, she hasn't been found guilty of anything because this is a civil thing, so it's not a criminal proceeding. So there isn't really a finding of guilt, but she has been found liable. And I don't know if he wants an injunction. He just seems to just want to be able to do his thing, which props to him, right? All right, so, and I see somebody saying if the juror never spoke to ABC, they would not be making this claim about the juror. I don't know if that's the case. I suspect that they'd be making this anyway. Somebody's asking, dear Lord, tell me there's no possibility there could be another trial. There is, but it's not a huge one. We'll have to see there. Jane Babe and Luxor just popped on for a second. Long weekend emergencies up the yin yang. We'll watch later. Well, thank you for checking it out. Jane Babe and Luxor has been a longtime supporter, So thank you very much. And yeah, check it out when you can. And thank you, Movie Myths and Monsters. All right, so let's have a look here at what they're arguing. They're saying, from the beginning, Mr. Depp set out to try this case as a domestic relations dispute he wished he had tried rather than settled in 2016. So you can already see where they're going here. So they're trying to sort of muddy the water here about the domestic. Now, the thing is that settlement, neither side really stuck to the terms of the settlement there. But Mr. Depp's counsel argued throughout the trial that the issues before the jury began 6 years ago when Ms. Heard obtained a domestic violence temporary restraining order against Mr. Depp on May 27th, 2016. Well, the time to object to that was during the trial, not so much now. But they're going to try to argue it now. They say the claims in this case were far different than the case Mr. Depp tried to the jury. Mr. Depp's claims arose from an op-ed published in the Washington Post on December 18th, 2018. 2.5 years later, Mr. Depp alleged that 3 statements, one the title authored by the Washington Post, formed the basis of his defamation claims. To avoid explaining to the jury the UK final judgment finding Mr. Depp to have committed 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence, Mr. Depp represented to the court he would limit his damages claims to the period December 18th, 2018 through November 20th, 2020, the date of the UK judgment. So this is kind of key, right? This is an important thing that they're talking about here. What they're saying is basically that they came to an agreement because Depp did not want the UK verdict going in. And for very good reason. That UK verdict is hot trash, and it's very prejudicial for Johnny Depp. So, of course, Amber Heard's team very much wants that to go in. They want the jury to hear that the UK verdict came to a different direction, which is, of course, insanely prejudicial, right? You'd never want to really put that through if you're going to have a trial. So, in order to partially to help keep that out, they said, listen, our claims are limited to only after that verdict. And so what Amber Heard's team is now complaining is saying, oh, well, they talked about the stuff that happened before. Well, of course they have to talk about the stuff that happened before, because that's the truthfulness aspect, right? The question on the after is the statements that were made after. So they're kind of trying to play a little bit of an interesting game here, and we'll have to see if it works out for them, because essentially what they're trying to argue is that this was improper, and so that basically what they're going to want to do with all of this is they're going to want to try to argue that the UK verdict should have been snuck in. That's going to be something that I think they're going to make a real big point on there. All right, so let's carry on here. I don't want to linger too much on my ranting, but yes. And I see, yes, liable. She keeps repeating what she's been found liable for, that she's a survivor of domestic abuse. Jury found that untrue. Yep. And an injunction would make her accountable to the court. I agree, but I don't think that that's likely to happen. We'll have to see. Uncivil law. Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining me here. All right, so they say instead, even throughout the closings, Mr. Depp continued to urge the jury to restore his reputation and legacy to his children as a result of Ms. Heard accusing Mr. Depp in May 2016 of domestic violence and obtaining a domestic violence temporary restraining order. Again, there was a time to object to that, and it's passed. So this kind of seems like they're saying, hey, we should be, we want to redo those objections. So they're saying that the jury's verdict was obviously influenced by Mr. Depp's pleas. And now I don't know how they're going to say that it was obviously influenced, because you can't really know what the jury was thinking. I mean, we haven't heard much from the jurors at this point. We've got this, there's been a review of it, but we haven't actually seen, or there's been an interview with one, but it's a very sparse interview. There's a lot of questions that weren't asked that I totally would have asked in one of those interviews, but I don't think a juror is going to come to me for an interview just because my budget for paying a juror is very low. So, and Jonathan, thank you for the very generous super sticker. All right. So all of this stuff about sort of trying to attack the juror and or the jury's decision is going to be a very hard sell for the court, because the court does not typically want to basically undo or redo what the jury has said. It can be pretty blatant before the court will step in there. So they say the exclusion of the UK judgment, which of course they're going to keep harping on, coupled with Mr. Depp's continuous urging to the jury to go back 6 years and exonerate him and restore his reputation, resulted in an indefensible $10 million compensatory damage verdict and $5 million punitive damage verdict. The verdict is excessive as a matter of law in light of the evidence in law and should be set aside. So these are the arguments they're making, sort of as a general intro here. All right, so let's skip forward a little bit past the sort of intro to their actual arguments, because this introduction is basically just giving us an overview of what's going on. And so let's dive into what they're actually saying. All right, so argument. The damages awarded by the jury are unsupported by the evidence and the law. Now, this is going to be a very tough sell on this one, because the jury's the one who gets to make the decision as to what the damages should be. And unsupported verdict is you basically would have to say that it's impossible for a jury to ever get to this. And that is sort of its own issue there. So the jury returned a verdict in the amount of $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. And that punitive damages, of course, was reduced to the statutory cap. These damages awards are unsupported by the evidence presented at trial and cannot be upheld as a matter of law. And they note there's going to cite some law here, which is useful. Under Virginia Code, they cite the number, where damages awarded are too small or too excessive, courts have the authority to order a new trial on all issues or solely on the issues of damages or remitter. While, as a general rule, a trial court should not disturb a jury award that has been fairly rendered and based upon competent evidence, courts have a duty to correct a verdict that plainly appears to be unfair or would result in a miscarriage of justice. Now, plainly appears to be unfair or would result in a miscarriage of justice, there's all sorts of circumstances where you could pretty easily get to that, right? If you think about somebody who trips and falls on the sidewalk and they suffer, a little bit of dental injury and, some scuff, like they tore up their hands falling. And if the jury says, we find that the appropriate compensatory damages are $100 million. And this is not somebody who uses their face to make a living or anything like that. Like, this isn't Johnny Depp has permanently had a facial deformity or anything like that. This is just some minor dental repair. That would be obviously too high, right? Or similarly, if you had somebody who, lost a leg and the jury said that the appropriate compensatory damages was $1, that's obviously too low. But it's going to be really hard to get to this in the context of movie stars, because movie stars, you're talking about damages that could be all over the map and are obviously going to be in the millions of dollars. So, Amber Heard herself was asking for $100 million. I think it's going to be very difficult to convince any court that $10 million is an unreasonable number. That's one movie. That could be one movie. So, yeah. And I see Nicholas Starro. In Sweden, we checked the assets from where the dispute started to see if any have been moved to avoid eventual payment of damages. Do you have that in U.S. and Canada? Certainly, you can absolutely bring stuff, at least in Canada, to say, hey, listen, they've been moving money around to try to avoid paying damages. And those transactions can be, in some circumstances, undone. So, for instance, if somebody sells their house to someone else at, for $1 or, at half price or something, you might be able to unwind that transaction and unsell it so that then it can be accessed there. And I see Uncivil saying, I'd be a bit surprised if the trial judge considers this at all at this point, to be honest. She's obviously so done. I agree. I think that this is probably going to get a response from the judge, but I don't think it's going to be the response that Amber Heard's team wants. So circumstances which compel setting aside a jury verdict include a damage award that is so excessive that it shocks the conscience of the court, creating the impression that the jury was influenced by passion, corruption, or prejudice, that the jury has misconceived or misunderstood the facts or the law, or the award is so out of proportion to the injuries suffered as to suggest that it is not the product of a fair and impartial decision. So when we see that language in terms of the, in terms of the test here, it's not an easy test to meet, right? It's not like, oh, the judge disagrees, right? Because that would be sort of a standard of kind of correctness. It's not that the judge just goes, oh, I disagree with this decision. I would have given a little more money, or I would have given a little less money, because the jury is the one who gets to decide this. It has to be something that, is really out of line, so excessive that it shocks the conscience of the court. I don't feel that the court's conscience has been shocked by this damage award. I don't think we're going to get to that at all. So setting aside a verdict as excessive under these conditions is an exercise of the inherent discretion of the trial court, but only under these conditions. You can't set it aside just because you don't like it, because otherwise, why would we have the jury making that decision in the first place? How do we get to shocks the conscience? So they say, here the jury's determination of $10 million in compensatory damages is excessive as a matter of law, as there's no evidence to support the verdict. Okay, but I mean, there was a lot of evidence. If you watched this trial, you saw a lot of evidence as to damages, as to movies he lost. And it's really not difficult for a jury to assume that he would be making movies even today, if he hadn't, if this hadn't happened. So, and I see, can the judge ignore this motion just like she ignored Ben Chu's motion during jury deliberation? I don't think she can ignore it, but she can reject it. And that's definitely a possibility that she's going. I think that it's quite likely that she's going to look over this and say, yeah, that's great, but we're not doing that. I want to see the response to this, because I don't think a response to this has been filed yet. And that's not surprising. This was filed, I think, Friday. It's going to take some time for them to get a response. I suspect that somebody is working this weekend, and that's kind of a kind of frustrating. One thing that I'll note, and I don't know about the timelines and so forth, but lawyers work really hard, and often the legal profession sucks. And so it really sucks when you get a motion that requires a whole lot of work to respond to just before, say, a long weekend. Hey, you guys in the States, you doing anything right now that would call for a long weekend? Anything like that going on? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they did this on purpose. I don't know that they had any filing deadlines, but it does still feel kind of like a jerk move. And I suspect that there are some research people who, like some lower level associates who are just, who are told, hey, cancel your plans. You got some work to do. And that sucks. What are Amber Heard's chances of getting a new trial? I think pretty poor. I think they are about the same as my chances of being cast as the next Captain Jack Sparrow. But maybe a little better than that. All right, so let's keep going here. So they note the court, during opening statements in response to Mr. Depp's objection, prohibited Ms. Heard from telling the jury about the Sun article. Well, no kidding they did. There's a general rule of admissibility, and the rule of it's you want evidence to have not more prejudicial effect than probative effect. And what that means is prejudicial effect is it will probably lead the jury to bad conclusions. So as an example of prejudicial effect, in a criminal trial, we're not usually allowed to put the accused character into evidence. So you can't say, for instance, this guy's accused of a murder, and look at all these violent offenses he committed in the past, because those don't actually tell you if he committed this one. And, the probative effect of that is very limited. You're not going to be able to tell that this guy committed this murder just because he's a violent dude generally. So I see, didn't the judge already lower the damages for punitive damages according to the law? So are they able to go against that? That's just by statute. So it wasn't even the judge's discretion. It's just required. So, yeah. And I see her team does everything with purpose. One thing that somebody else noted, and it kind of scrolled by in the chat, so I can't bring up the message here easily, but somebody else noted that this might have been done for publicity timing, because now they can drop this just before the long weekend when there's not a whole lot of other stuff that tends to happen over the long weekend. Politicians are taking their own time, their own time off and so forth. So really, this might be something to get everybody talking about this over the long weekend. One thing I will say over and over and over again is that there are really two trials going on this one. And it's really important when we're trying to understand what's going on in terms of strategy and so forth, that there are these two trials. And this is so unusual. This almost never happens. But there's the one trial that is going on in the actual court case, and there's another PR battle. And the PR battle is the one that is actually the more important one. The PR battle is the one that has more money riding on it for each of them, because ultimately, if Johnny Depp had gotten $1, that dollar to him is worth a lot more money if it gets him more movie deals. And similarly, if Amber Heard gets $1, that's worth a lot more money to her than anything else. And I see Erg Bai says, I think you have a better chances for Jack Sparrow. You have a massive sword. I actually have several swords, but I'm not going to bring them all out on stream here. All right. So they say, after many of Mr. Depp's witnesses had testified, the court then allowed Mr. Heard to raise but not admit into evidence the Sun article, the fact of the trial, and the publicity surrounding the trial, but still not the UK judgment. And of course, not the UK judgment, right? I've said over and over that this is a situation of massive prejudice as opposed to the probative value. So, and again, they're saying he would not attempt to claim any damages after November 2nd. So now they're going to say that there's, they're complaining that in closings, they made it clear that they were seeking damages from May 27th, 2016 through the present. Now, I don't know that that's actually what they said in closing. It was actually, when I watched the closings, it seemed to me to be quite clear. And I think that there was a jury instruction that said this is the period that matters. So they say this was highly prejudicial to Ms. Heard. Of course, you could have asked for an instruction right at the time. Did you do that? Because if you didn't, then I don't see how you can bring this now. Necessarily created confusion for the jury, and the resulting 10 million compensatory and 5 million punitive damages reflect the jury's belief. How do you know what the jury believes? You're guessing that it was restoring Mr. Depp's reputation based on Ms. Heard's initial filing, the May 2016 DVTRO, as Mr. Depp's counsel requested in openings and closings. This alone justifies setting aside the verdict and ordering a new trial. All right. They say Mr. Depp presented no evidence of any pecuniary damages suffered in that limited period, and there was no evidence of any projects or lost commercial opportunities because of the op-ed. Now, I disagree on this, because, if you show that this has destroyed the guy's career even before that period, then it, or that there has been damage, it's reasonable for the jury to make that conclusion that this is causing further issues. I see. I'm just waiting for the words vexatious litigant. I don't think they're going to get to vexatious. This is not a vexatious thing. This is just them trying what they can, right? And keep in mind, because of the PR battle, they are going to appeal this. They're going to fight this. And so this is expected. I mean, I can't say that this is anywhere near vexatious. This is not something that I can fault them on as like unethical lawyering. It's just not likely to succeed. All right. And I see somebody saying, does this count as an appeal, or is this just a motion to Judge Ascarati? This is just a motion at this point. So this is not the appeal yet. All right. And somebody in another channel mentioned that according to Virginia law, that still won't set aside a jury verdict. I mean, they cited some Virginia law as to what the test is. I don't see how they're anywhere near this test. That I don't see that they're anywhere, near this element here. I see Camille did say 6 years ago today, May 27th, 2016, JD lost his life. Does that count? I mean, that's what Bredehoft is arguing, certainly. I don't think that they're going to get there on this. I don't care what movie Johnny Depp stars in next or how bad it is. All I know is I will see and drag everyone along with me just to help make sure that it's a hit and prove some kind of pointless point. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of people. I think that somebody in Hollywood who wants to cast Johnny Depp is going to find that they're packing theaters just with people going, I want to see this, even if it's Johnny Depp reads the phone book, just because they want to, they want to support this. A lot of people have really sort of weighed in. So I'm not going to read this in its entirety because a couple of reasons. First, some of my health issues have been acting up. So if I need to take a break at some points, I may have to take a quick break. But I'm not sure sort of if I've got an incredible amount of time. That's just its own thing. That's its sort of headache of the day. But I don't want to just kind of go through all of the headache, but there are making some interesting arguments here that I think are at least worth discussing. I don't think that they're, good arguments. I think it's just worth discussing here. But they say, moreover, the exclusion of the UK judgment necessarily prevents any reasonable or competent assessment of any damages, including reputational damage, as well as the credibility of Mr. Depp in asserting damages. There is no way a jury can determine any level of damage to Mr. Depp from the op-ed without taking into consideration all potential alternative causes of damages, much less an overriding one brought on by Mr. Depp's election to file a libel suit in a forum of his choosing, claiming irreparable damages to his reputation from the Sun article. Now, so this is actually, I think, kind of interesting. One of the arguments that or what I think they're saying here is that the jury needed to hear that the UK judgment basically slammed him in order to determine whether or not he had a reputation going into 2018. I think that it's not an insane argument, but at the same time, there's a prejudicial versus probative effect issue here. The hearing that UK judgment is just so insanely prejudicial that any probative effect on it is going to be very difficult to sell. Here, when they're told, listen, you have to... I think that there's alternate ways for them to get to this issue. They could absolutely have called evidence, and they tried to, certainly, to say that going into 2018, his reputation was already garbage. Elaine and her team tried to call that evidence. They tried to call evidence to say he didn't have a reputation to ruin. So, I don't think that they need to hear the UK judgment. They just needed to be told the specifics as to what the time frame was. All right. All right, so thank you for the new membership. And I see Lauren Adams saying, wouldn't Heard's team be responsible to educate the jury on UK law to even consider entering it into evidence and explain the difference? I think that there would be some issues in terms of explaining absolutely, in terms of explaining why the UK verdict might be different. And it becomes very, you're going to have to teach them an entirely different legal system there. So that's... I see somebody noting Depp was still Captain Jack Sparrow after the UK trial. Yeah. So it's, I think that this is a weak argument. I think that essentially I think that this is so weak ultimately that I don't fault them for making it but they pretty much have to, but I don't think it's going to succeed. I think this is going to be dismissed fairly out of hand. I'm pretty sure that Depp's team is going to file a response to this. This isn't the sort of thing where you can just say, hey, I'm not going to file a response. I'm not going to, anything. But I don't think that it's going to need a whole lot of argument. I suspect that the judge is going to be like, no. All right. So the next one, there is no evidence of pecuniary damages from the op-ed. So this is very similar, this is a sub point. So they're saying, taking in the evidence in the light most favorable to Mr. Depp, there's no evidence upon which the jury could reasonably have relied to determine that Mr. Depp suffered any pecuniary loss because of the op-ed. Well, I think that they tried to bring an application to have this whole thing thrown out, and partially on this basis, and that was not granted at the time. So let's keep going here. So while Mr. Depp asserted he lost Pirate 6 because of the op-ed, there's no evidence upon which the jury can rely. They say he didn't have a contract for Pirate 6. There was media coverage that Mr. Depp would not be in Pirate 6 as of October 25th, 2018, 2 months before the op-ed. Mr. Depp's agent testified that it'd be very likely Mr. Depp would not be in Pirate 6 as of the fall of 2018. And Mr. Depp testified that he would not have agreed to play a role in Pirate 6 for $300 million and a million alpacas. Of course, they're going to use that line over and over and over again. They love that. And thank you, Arlene, for the super chat and the appreciation for the work and the health problems. Yeah, that's an ongoing thing. I still don't have a solution on that, but yeah. I hope that you feel better soon. Thanks for the analysis and for giving me something interesting to listen to on the treadmill. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and I see somebody saying, please do not disparage the sex workers on OnlyFans. Most of them work harder than Amber ever has or ever would be willing to. Yeah, it's, people out there are hustling and, so forth. And I got respect for people who are, going through, and everybody's got to have their sort of their angles there. It's not, yeah, it's not my favorite line of attack there. Amber Heard's a terrible person, but I'm not, sort of the biggest thing. And somebody's saying, wait, is that why there were alpacas at the trial? Yes, that is why there were alpacas at the trial. And the alpacas at the trial thing was kind of wild. Let me see if I can find a picture for you guys. Just, well, that might take me a little while here to track down a picture of the alpacas. But yeah, there were alpacas at the trial. People brought those out. It was a really weird moment because I've never had anybody do anything like that at any of my trials, and I quite expect that it never will happen. Okay, I think I found alpacas. Let's see if I can bring up alpacas without running into trouble here. StreamYard, can I bring up alpacas? All right, I think I need to do this, and let me just see if I can find the alpacas. All right, can you guys see alpacas? Yes. So, yeah, the alpacas, with pirate hats and so forth, they were really... I actually kind of wanted an alpaca at the end of it. They're really sweet animals. So, and I see, did Amber Heard's team forget Richard Marks getting on the stand and testifying that the op-ed cost him movies? Yeah, I mean, there clearly was some evidence there. And somebody noted Ben Chu kept an alpaca stuffed animal in his pocket. Somebody gave him the whole time. Yeah, I saw pictures of that. That was super cute. Can Johnny Depp delay payment as a way to keep her quiet? As in, keep quiet, you don't have to pay. They could have actually come to a settlement or something along those lines, and they haven't. So I don't think that's likely to happen. She's not looking to settle. She thinks she's going to win this. That's where they're at. All right, so let's bring this back up. All right, so they say Mr. Wiggins' belief there existed a contract was based on his understanding that Tracy Jacobs, Mr. Depp's earlier agent, had negotiated a deal. However, Tracy Jacobs testified there was no deal negotiated, no commitment from Disney that Mr. Depp would be in Pirate 6 while she represented Mr. Depp, which was up to October 2016. Here's the fun thing about this. The jury is entitled to think she's lying. The jury's entitled to reject her evidence. The jury is entitled to think that, to believe the opposite of what she says. So, the difficulty there is pretty profound. Since the film has never been shot, let alone written, and was not by November 2nd, 2020, the date Mr. Depp's damages are cut off, it would be impossible for Mr. Depp to claim damages for Pirate 6. Yet Mr. Depp continued to claim this at trial. Do people ever get advances? Do people ever get paid to be, on the hook to do things. Oh, yes, that happens all the time. And in fact, we heard testimony that this happens all the time. So I feel like that is also a non-starter. Changed my own brakes today was surprisingly easy and only took 30 minutes or so, passing the savings on to my favorite elf. Well, thank you very much. And YouTube makes a lot of this stuff really possible. And I see he definitely lost Fantastic Beast because of the op-ed. Yes, I think that they're probably not going to mention that. They're just going to mention pirates. So they're saying more. So they're still going on Pirate 6. So even Mr. Marks, Mr. Depp's expert, acknowledged the article published 3 days after the UK judgment, indicating that Mr. Depp was out of any further Pirates franchise. So basically, they're just saying no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. But I mean, the jury gets to decide how they weigh the evidence. They get to decide all of this. The no evidence standard is a really difficult standard to meet. It's going to be very tough for that to be met. I don't think that they can reach a no evidence standard here. So they say the jury's compensatory and punitive damage awards were excessive as a matter of law. Now, really, if you find that there's no evidence, then you kind of have to agree with this one too. But I don't think that they're going to find that there was no evidence. And somebody says alpacas bite; they're sweet creatures and possibly edible, but they'll bite you good. I was kind of worried about that when I got up there because I was initially like, okay, let's kind of hang back for the alpacas. And then the guy who brought the alpacas is like, no, get in there, get a better picture. So I was kind of like, I hope that they don't nip at me because they got some big, herbivores tend to have powerful jaws, believe it or not. So given that the jury did not and could not award Mr. Depp damages for any financial or pecuniary losses based on the evidence at trial, the only damages the jury could possibly have awarded to Mr. Depp were reputational damages. Okay, so they're saying, you can't have awarded any, actual compensatory, so only the reputation matters. So even though reputational damages are non-pecuniary, a jury must still award damages that resulted only from the defendant's wrong and not from other causes. Now, again, here's the problem. Mr. Depp is the kind of guy who's got a reputation that is insanely valuable, like hugely so. They say, is this just an attempt to circumvent the appeal process because she's broke? No, this is a precursor to the appeal process. They're going to proceed with the appeal process after this, I'm sure. But, if you're talking about a guy who is, say, homeless guy on the street, and suddenly you get him a really terrible reputation, like you spread terrible, nasty rumors about him. His reputation is something, but it's probably not going to be worth the same as, say, Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp was getting movie roles not just because he's an amazing actor, but also people like Johnny Depp. I mean, people like seeing that he does things like, goes to children's hospitals and so forth. Reputation is really becoming a major part of Hollywood and so forth. When we see the culture and how people, will turn on an actor or an actress who is perceived to be sort of toxic in some fashion, reputation is huge. It can have huge value for these people. Even for, I'm not in Depp's league by any stretch, but, if people thought I was some terrible person, I'm guessing that, we wouldn't have, thank you, DX Ghostly, for becoming a new member. Thank you, Mika Plays Games, for the super chat. All of this is absolutely wild. She's really going for it, huh? Yes. Also, thank you for everything, all that you do. I mean, people would not be sort of sending super chats and so forth if they thought I was a terrible person. And I see people mentioning J.K. Rowling. She's another example of somebody whose reputation has taken a hit, and it's almost certainly affected her financially, although her financial situation is probably such that she doesn't need to worry about it too much, but I mean, it's still going to affect her there. And somebody says she needs to put the 10 plus million in an account for the court before appeal. Appeals are not to avoid delay payment. Yes, the reason for those kinds of bonds is that if you want to stop her or stop Depp from being able to collect money from her, she's got to be able to show that that money is secure. Because if we're going to prevent Depp from coming after the money, it can't be a situation where she can just, spend it freely and become judgment proof by blowing all the money. Thank you, Jen, for the YouTube membership. So that's why the bond is really required there, and that's why that's why that's there. And I see they referred to the UK trial multiple times during the trial. Literally, the only thing she didn't say outright was that he lost, and that's what they really wanted to say. They really wanted to say that he lost there, but she didn't win. She was not a party to that case. Absolutely, she wasn't. That was with the Sun. So, all right, and they say Mr. Depp is not entitled to damages for any conduct prior to the op-ed. And, so that includes that he's not entitled to damages for the DVTRO, which is what they're arguing. And they're saying that he testified that the damage to his reputation was when Ms. Heard obtained the DVTRO on May 27th. But he did also argue that it continued and that it got worse and was, re-emphasized. And, the wound was reopened and worsened when the op-ed came out. So we did note that. They should give her a new trial just to humiliate her when she lost again, and we'd all watch being in UK explain how judge-based ruling off lies. I mean, as much as, watching another trial might be Depp doesn't want that. And Depp shouldn't have to go through it. I don't think a new trial, and that's actually their fallback position for Amber Heard. She's saying she wants this all just thrown out entirely. She says, don't do a new trial. Just throw this out and no new trial. Just declare me the winner, which I don't think is going to happen. Shadow Riley, please don't fall asleep against a wall. Well, if they issue a new trial, I'm probably going to be doing a lot of wall napping. But and Cora Savage, is this a way for them to figure out what arguments would have a greater chance of success during the appeals process? No, I think that they're just throwing everything they can out here. And if a new trial is argued, would that be in front of the same judge, who I guess would be a bit mad? I'm certain it would be a different judge. I can't, I haven't practiced in Virginia, but I'm pretty sure it would be a different judge. Can we start a number to make it so a jury can do an interview with Runkle over the phone and then do a vid of him just talking about what he learned, just so the juror can say anonymous? That's a thing, merch. I got to get some merch together. I mean, if a juror reached out to me and wanted to talk, I would absolutely protect their anonymity. That can be done on StreamYard just with a sort of an image there. But as I said, I suspect that any juror who wants to reach out is going to be reaching out to a major establishment, because they can, provide payment, which I can't. Hey, Braden, be careful or bots will be coming after you next. Have you seen the garbage or bots have been doing to Tug and Andy at Popcorn Planet? She's really gone off the deep end. Yeah, well, they've already said some stuff that's entertaining. They say I'm alt-right. Man, you guys have really got me pegged wrong. I like guns, but I'm not alt-right. Sorry about that. I actually got off easy. They were calling some other people incels, which is funny because one of them was Hogue, who is married and has kids. Like, do they not understand what an incel is? I don't know. Somebody says, I thought this appeal went above Penny. When they file the actual appeal, yes. But right now they haven't filed the appeal. Right now this is just a motion asking Judge Ascarati to throw this out. All right. So they note Mr. Depp then continued his testimony by describing how the accusations from the DVTRO in 2016 spread through the media. So basically, this is another argument that he had no reputation to burn down because the op-ed already did it. So, or because the DVTRO already did it and the UK trial already did it. So, yeah, I like this. It's really taken this full 6 years, and it's been 6 years of trying times. It's very strange when one day you're Cinderella, so to speak, and in 0.6 seconds you're Quasimodo. I like that line, and that's partially because Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of my it's one of my favorite books. And if you watch the what is it? If you watch the Disney movie of it, you are not getting Hunchback of Notre Dame. I will go on a rant about this because they actually made one of the villains of the book into a hero, and I don't understand how that happens. But yeah, I really like the book, and in fact, that book single-handedly saved a lot of Paris architecture. So if you want to, if you go to Paris and you love the architecture, read the book because it helped saved it or helped save all of that. Now I see somebody was saying that they would buy a desk gun holder there. So I don't know what that means, but let me know. Sort of shoot me a Twitter message with what that's about. I'm still sort of contemplating merch options and so forth. So yeah, you're all right. Hoag's an incel. It's utterly ridiculous. Absolutely, they don't understand what an incel is. Yeah, it's just bizarre. Uh, I'm all truth. I like that one. I really like that line here. And yeah, desk gun holders. I don't know what you're talking about in terms of the desk gun holders, but let me know. I will have a look there. Silver hair likes guns. Not all right. Are you my younger self? Quite possibly. All right. So I got to take a really quick break here. I will be back in just a moment, but I will leave you with sort of something here to what is it? Just to sort of keep things entertaining while I'm gone. I'll turn the volume down on that a little bit. These are the fireworks that I was putting on while I was away, so I'll just be right back here. All right. So yeah, the sorry about the little delay there, but yeah, that was some of the fireworks that I was uh, helping set up over for Canada Day. That was, and I just enjoy doing that because you get to sort of play with explosives, which you don't normally get to do. And yeah, I'll talk a bit about the fireworks if we got time here. So I see this money is not for you; it's for your chair for its hard work while you were away. Well, thank you. Do you have any thoughts on Amber Heard's motion for the court to review Juror 15? And yes, I'm definitely going to have some thoughts on that. Also, can Amber Heard go to a higher court of law? Any comment on the Australian government statements of the ongoing investigation? I'll have to look at the statements on another video, but yes, Amber Heard is going to go to the Court of Appeal after this, but this is the first step. So this is a preliminary step for that. And thank you, Jay, for the $5 super chat there. All right, so just See somebody saying they let you view fireworks from prison. That's probably referring to the bars there. That's actually this thing that they put up on around the bridge to try to keep people from deciding not to be on the bridge, I guess is the YouTube friendly way of putting it. If I can, if I can, yeah, if I can get to the sort of the fireworks, one of the stories I'll tell is kind of about that. So everybody here posts that they're awful. Dogs and horses go wilt, and vets are in tears. I'm not the person who decides whether or not fireworks happen. I just help set them up. So, all right, let's carry on here. So they say, and this was not isolated evidence. Mr. Depp testified that after the public became aware of the DVTRO in May 2016, the bad news about him was multiplying and multiplying and multiplying throughout media, throughout social media as well, so-called sort of strike media or whatever. And, he keeps on going, talking about how it was spinning out of control. So, again, the argument here is basically that essentially they're arguing that he had no reputation at all to proceed with, and that that's it, that there's sort of nothing that can be done there. So this is why they're trying to say that the jury's damages award was improper and unfair. But keep in mind, the jury has a lot of discretion on all of this. Now, I'm not going to go through every line of this because it's long. They're just going to keep on going. But yeah, essentially the argument is he had no reputation at all at this point, and so really the jury had to have been awarding damages based on the 2016 incident rather than the 2018 and so forth op-ed and so forth. And somebody says, I'm a lost dog trapper, secure the pups and animals. Yes. It always sucks when you lose a dog. I've had my pups go missing, and that was stressful as heck. Zora, right after we got her, went for a bit of a run, and I was very worried. So they say Mr. Depp is not entitled to damages for alternative causes, including the Sun publication, the ensuing litigation brought by Mr. Depp, the UK trial and surrounding publicity, and the UK judgment. So this is going to be yet another way where they're going to try to get the UK judgment into court. This is a big thing that they're trying to get as to all of that. And somebody said, is defamation the same? Why does it matter when? And a big reason why it matters when is because Johnny Depp was was trying to keep out the UK judgment for very good reasons. And so it looks like the part of the sort of agreement was that they had to limit their damage as to the time frame. So for after the UK judgment, because otherwise the UK judgment would have been potentially admissible. All right. So they're noting that there was an enormous amount of press surrounding the trial, and that the press surrounding Mr. Depp did not mention the op-ed at all, but was instead about Mr. Depp's trial in the UK. So that's Mr. Banya's analysis. I believe that was one of Amber Heard's witnesses. They say if Johnny Depp had no reputation, then surely they can't use his celeb status and influence on the jury and social media. That's a mic drop moment right there from Maria Presley, because Amber Heard has been going on about how this guy's a celebrity and so forth, and everybody, loves him, and that's why the jury was influenced. That's why social media was influenced. And here they're trying to say he had no reputation to burn. I really love that, and I wish I could claim credit for it, but that was Maria Presley there. Brilliant. I hope we see that in the response, because I would love to see them hoist Amber and Elaine Bredehoft on their own words on that and say, listen, you guys have been doing a media tour talking about how Johnny Depp has swayed this verdict with his celebrity star power. And now you're trying to say he had no star power left to burn? How do you get there? Ben Chu, if you're watching this, put that in there. And if it does go in there, I cannot claim credit. And Maria would get any credit if there is any, but I suspect they're probably not watching this. So, Shauna, thank you for the new YouTube membership. And Kyle Cowden, hey Legolas, I mean Runkle, when are you coming down to God's country? Sincerely, the Republic of Texas. I'd love to go and see Texas. I've actually been in Texas once, but it was really brief. I went to Texas and I stopped off in the airport and was there for about an hour and then took another flight. So that is the extent of my my Texas sort of stop there. And I see Maria Presley, you should tweet that out with @Runkle and we will all like and retweet. Absolutely. So if Johnny Depp had no reputation, how is it that he got it all back? Yeah, it's kind of a thing there. It's all right. Somebody's saying, who is Maria? She's the one who sent the super chat pointing out this really good point. All right. And they say this case is the opposite of Government Micro Res Inc. versus Jackson, in which the Supreme Court acknowledged Jackson's right to recover greater damages because he presented evidence of his untarnished reputation prior to the defamation. Mr. Depp's reputation was anything but untarnished before the op-ed was published and was further tarnished after the op-ed was published by events entirely unrelated to the op-ed. So, yeah, their argument is basically he had no reputation to lose here. Can the media tour statements be used to counter the arguments in this motion? I think I would certainly try it. I would say, hey, they're trying to make two different arguments in different places. Thanks for all your streams, Runkle. Learning a lot here. Love from Ireland. Wow, that's a long way away. We've got Sweden in the chat. We've got Ireland. That's awesome. I'd love to see Ireland one day as well. I've seen pictures and it looks beautiful. Nikki Honders became a YouTube member. Well, thank you very much. And hello, question. Which Back to the Future film is your favorite? Have a good day. I kind of have a fondness for the original. So they say Mr. Depp cannot, as a matter of law, be compensated for any injuries caused by anything associated with the Sun publication, the UK lawsuit, the trial, or the UK judgment. And they say Mr. Depp's expert, Mr. Banya, so I was wrong about that one. Could not separate out how Mr. Depp's reputation was impacted from the op-ed versus the publicity surrounding Mr. Depp's litigation. Nor did Mr. Depp present any other evidence that was able to separate any damages Mr. Depp reportedly incurred from the op-ed versus what he sustained from the UK litigation. Okay, so it's hard to separate it out. Maybe there'd be some process by which we could get, say, a number of people who could listen to the evidence and could somehow decide on some way to apportion which percentage of any actual losses that were claimed might be recoverable versus not recoverable. What would we call such a panel of people? Maybe we could select those people from, just ordinary members of the public. That seems like an appropriate way to do it, right? We could get those ordinary members of the public to do that. Maybe we could call it, I don't know, a jury. This is exactly the kind of question that the jury is solving. So, this is just, I don't like this argument one bit. They're saying, how do we separate this out? This is what the jury does. This is how they, the expert might not be able to do it, but the jury certainly can. That's their whole job. All right. So finally, Mr. Depp claimed in his testimony that he's been damaged for the past 6 years, including through this jury verdict. The jury is going to parse that out, and the jury's going to have instructions. They have to decide which elements, which parts are from before and not recoverable, and which parts are from after and recoverable. I think the jury was told about that. Oh, right. That was in your closing, Miss Bredehoff. You made that point. So the jury certainly heard it. The jury certainly knew that. Yeah. All right. They say it is eminently unfair and prejudicial for the jury to be told repeatedly that Mr. Depp was damaged for 6 years up to the present, while Mr. Depp represented to the court that it was not claiming such damages. Well, of course you'd have to talk about the damage for 6 years so that the jury can make the decision about which damage is after, and a result of the op-ed. The jury would certainly have to hear that. And yeah. Oh, and I see somebody saying the description of you in one of the hit pieces on Law Tube was that you had a liberal bias and are alt-right. They said an anti-liberal bias. And I mean, I think that they probably don't realize that the Liberals are a party, like a political party here in Canada. And I mean, I don't really have an anti-liberal bias. I've actually voted for the Liberal Party in the past. I have a profound dislike for the current Liberal Party and its crop of really ugly practices. So, you're calling me biased against the Liberal, like, I don't understand what the deal is there. I don't think they understand Canadian politics at all. So, yeah. Andrea Withers, thank you for the new membership here. And I mean, when we're trying to establish the actual damages, how would you not tell how would you not sort of tell that? When somebody says unsubscribed, okay, not an airport. You can just leave without having to, announce. I'm not even sure why, but yeah. All right. So this seems very weird to me. And they say this prejudice is exponentially increased because Ms. Heard was denied the ability to introduce the evidence that Mr. Depp's lawsuit against the Sun and Mr. Wooten resulted in an extensive 129-page judicial finding that Mr. Depp committed 12 acts of domestic violence against Ms. Heard, including sexual violence, and had caused Ms. Heard to fear for her life. So again, they're really going to hammer it on that. They really want that in. And yeah. Somebody says, Runkle is unfazed by the unsubscribe. Sometimes I get emails. Somebody says, hey, I'm unsubscribing. And I don't know if that one was serious or a joke or what, but ultimately, I expect that I'm going to have some subscribers shrink after the Johnny Depp trial because I cover what I want to cover and it is what it is. But I don't think people are really doing me a harm when they unsubscribe because the people I want to do videos for are the people who want to watch my stuff. And if you're not one of those people, that's what the button is for. I think I do better if I have a pool of people who really like what I'm putting out there rather than people who don't. I'd rather have 50,000 subscribers who are really dedicated fans versus, 200,000 people who are like, yeah, screw this guy, or 200,000 bots. So yeah, they say Virginia case law supports setting aside damages that are excessive. We kind of covered this a little bit with that one case. And yeah, they basically note that it has to, be the proper recovery and can't be excessive to a degree that shocks the conscience. And they note here that they're actually citing a really interesting aspect here. They're citing a verdict of $10 million to be excessive and multiple times the amount of any other damages award for defamation in Virginia. But, was that for Johnny freaking Depp? Or was that for somebody else? Because if you're talking about Johnny freaking Depp, I feel like his reputation is worth way more than the average person. He's not your average bear. He is somebody whose reputation is incredibly more valuable to him. And I see somebody noting, did I meet Rob from Law and Lumber during this trial, or did I know him from before? I met him during this trial. I'd never heard of him before until he appeared on Alita's stream and, started doing some commentary. And then he did that amazing video, if you haven't watched it, where he was talking about the issues of the bed and the breaking of the bed and how that could have happened. And so he started out his channel. He got this amazing amount of support. It was, it's well-deserved. It was an amazing video and so forth. And then after that, so I was traveling on to this, the Johnny Depp trial, and he knew I was going to be there. So we sort of decided we were going to touch base because, it might make sense to we touch base just to say, hey, like, let's go the same time. We can hang out in the lineup and so forth. And he actually sent me a thing saying, which hotel are you going to be staying at? And I said, I don't know yet. Because what I thought is I was going to go to different hotels because I was going to be doing live streaming, right? So I thought I'd go to different hotels and basically say, can I test your Wi-Fi before I decide if I'm going to sign up here? Because if your Wi-Fi is no good, I'm not going to want to stay here. And he's like, how about instead of that, you just stay with me? And that was an incredibly generous offer because, like, he doesn't know if I'm some crazy axe murderer or something like that. He doesn't know what, if I'm some, absolutely terrible person. So it was a very generous thing. And then I met him and we hung out and we just got along like a house on fire. He's one of my favorite people. It's one of those times where you meet somebody and you feel like you've been friends for years. And that's a rare and special thing. I'm a big fan. So hope if they would have seen the evidence we saw, they would have known she lied to in the UK. Yes, the UK verdict, they didn't have all the information we have now. And Christine Danielson, thank you for the new YouTube membership there. All right, so they also note in another case, they sustained a remitter of $900,000 from a $1 million compensatory damage award for defamation arising out of a publication of a front page article in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, which reported on complaints about performance as a teacher. While the court affirmed the judgment that the teacher was defamed, it held that an award of $1 million clearly would have been excessive and that the evidence does not demonstrate that the trial court abused its discretion in reducing the award to $100,000. Now, so a remitter basically means that the court adjusts the damages amount, and in this case, adjusts it downwards. They took $1 million and they knocked it down to $100,000. But that's for a teacher. And, a teacher's damages are going to be less than Johnny Depp's for reputation. So thank you. I find your content and the way you present topics insightful and interesting from Ask Yesha. Thank you very much. Or Yeshka. Thank you very much. Is the defamation comparison the same as their comparison with Amber Heard with Jason Momoa, Zeta, etc.? Yeah, Amber Heard had these really interesting comparisons with like Zendaya. And I love the one response of, well, how about Zendaya? It's like, she goes by one name. Are you kidding me? Like, that's not the same thing there. Senate Bear Andy, thank you for the YouTube membership. Same to Teresa T. And I see Movie Myths and Monsters. Many of her claims from the UK were the same. She left out some in Virginia. They were so badly dismantled in London. Same injury photos, etc. Nonsense. Yeah. Oh, and we've got some we got some wonderful bot action again here. Or somebody out there has a grudge. It's quite entertaining. All right. And yes, I see somebody noting that Black Belt Barrister is a great video on the UK. Yes, absolutely. Go check that out. And somebody says, I understand that you think a teacher's reputation is worth less, but a teacher with a false accusation has lost a lifetime of damages because reputation means everything. I agree, but a teacher's is not getting paid this like millions of dollars. Reputation is very important for a teacher, but it's not going to be the same degree of things there. So, all right. They have another case here of $100,000 for publication of advertising accusing plaintiff of racism, where the plaintiff was a professor, and they say that $100,000 bore no relationship to the loss, and they said it was excessive as a matter of law, and that they experienced no physical manifestation of any emotional distress, sought no medical attention for any condition resulting from the publication, and there was no evidence that his standing with his peers was diminished. Well, here we had the opposite. We definitely had standing that his, we had evidence that his standing with his peers was diminished because now he's no longer able to get movies and so forth. So quick math, teacher's yearly salary in 1997, $12,000. Verdict was 8 times yearly salary and damages. I bet Johnny Depp would love an 8-time yearly salary and damages. Yes, if you're talking about what Johnny Depp was earning per year, and then you multiplied that by 8, a lot more than $10 million. So, yeah. All right. And they have some more of these things. And again, the problem is that they're going to have all of these sort of claims here, but none of them are going to be Johnny Depp, where, they're saying, so that's the issue there. They're saying the same is true for the $5 million punitive damages. There was obviously a sense to punish Ms. Heard for something far beyond the op-ed. Or was there? Maybe the jury actually wanted to punish her for that. Somebody says, why are Adam Waldman and Ben Chu in Australia perjury charges? Man, I hope so, because that would be that would also be really entertaining if the perjury charges were launched. Because so let's say Amber Heard gets charged with perjury in Australia, and let's say she gets, that's something that becomes very relevant to her credibility if there's ever, say, a new trial. If there's a new trial and she's got perjury charges on the go in Australia, guess what happens when she gets up to testify? They're going to be grilling her on, oh, hey, aren't you facing perjury charges in Australia? I don't think she's going to get convicted on the perjury charges in Australia, because I don't think she's ever going to go to Australia if they charge her with that there. She will just avoid the heck out of that. But, yeah. And they say, won't cost a teacher a lifetime of earning, just force them into a different career. Yes, whatever Johnny Depp ends up doing instead of movies is much worse than a teacher switching to something else. Yeah, if a teacher moves on to, becoming a mechanic, it might suck for them, but they're still earning some money and so forth. If Johnny Depp goes and becomes, a mechanic, he's not going to earn the millions of dollars he was doing movies. So if $10 million is excessive, why was it okay for her to ask for $100 million? RME, I'm not sure what that one is, and shaking my head. She's unbelievable, isn't she? She's really something else. I see people noting public school teachers barely make $30K these days. It's less probably. I really think that that's unfortunate. I think teachers should be paid more, but I don't have a way to fix that, unfortunately. All right, so they're going to keep going here. This is Sheckler, which they mentioned before. They say a broadcast station corporation through its TV station aired inaccurate information regarding plaintiff's arrest for conspiracy to distribute cocaine, namely that law enforcement officers found 50 grams of crack cocaine and 500 grams of powder cocaine at his residence and business. Despite the finding of defamation, the court significantly reduced the damages award because they could only be held responsible for the portions of the defendant's broadcast, not those from the arrest, prosecution, and forfeiture proceedings, or for the newspaper accounts and the accurate portions of the television broadcast. So this was a guy who almost certainly had some amount of cocaine. I don't know the details there, but that's sort of my guess on this, and that the issue was that they said that he found too much. Is that what was going on? Well, yeah, no kidding. They're not going to award, $10 million and reduced it to $1 million. That's still $1 million. Yeah. And just noting here, the jury made their voice heard. Sick, and her behavior warranted 10% of his nightmares because both were behaving terribly before, during, and especially afterwards. Yeah, and I see money is not the only thing of value. I agree. And, certainly I would say that a teacher should be awarded to, if they were defamed, should be awarded some damage amount for that reputational loss. But, yeah. But I mean, it's just a question of how much, right? And your reputation loss is going to be more if you were a celebrated figure beforehand versus if you were an unknown. All of these are, difficult things. So just increase pay for school board members from $8,000 to $20,000. That doesn't seem like nearly enough for what they deal with, but yeah. All right. So all in all on this, in terms of the jury damage aspect, I don't think this dog is going to hunt. I don't think that it's going to succeed. Ultimately, the damage award aspect is the responsibility of the jury. And while they cite a bunch of case laws to say, hey, this is out of line, I don't think that the case law can come anywhere close to paralleling the critical issues here, because the critical issue is Johnny Depp. That's going to be, a huge one. So, all right. The verdicts on the complaint and counterclaim are inconsistent and therefore should be set aside. So, what does it mean for a verdict to be inconsistent? Well, let's say, here in Canada, if you had somebody who's charged with murder that you murdered a particular person, but were also charged that you assaulted that particular person. And, and let's say the jury came back and said, we find that you did commit murder, but you didn't assault them. That would be an inconsistent verdict, because how the heck did you commit the murder without actually assaulting them, right? Assault is so much lower on the standard. But, yeah. So they say, aware being a zealous advocate is lawyer 101, but is there a line between that and just outright BS when it comes to these motions from a law view? There is a point where there is a sort of an issue in terms of that, but I don't think they're there. I don't think that this is an improper filing. I don't think that this is an unethical filing. I think it's just a bad argument. And you're allowed to make, bad arguments and so forth. So somebody says, can I overstate the current amount of cocaine in my car real quick, Runkle? No, I will. I am unaware of how much cocaine there is or is not in their car. All right. So they say that jury verdicts that are irreconcilably inconsistent cannot stand. Yes, and there's going to be a whole bunch of quotes in case law about, about inconsistent verdicts. The problem is that on appeal and on review, courts are very reluctant to ever sort of throw out verdicts on the basis of inconsistent verdict. So the standard for that is really difficult to meet, and I don't think they're going to get there, but let's see how they try. All right, so they say, here the jury's verdict in favor of Mr. Depp as to his defamation claims and in favor of Ms. Heard as to her defamation claim are inherently and irreconcilably inconsistent and therefore cannot stand. The verdicts found that Mr. Depp did not abuse Ms. Heard at any time, while at the same time necessarily found that Ms. Heard did not lie about being a victim of domestic abuse, and in particular abuse that occurred on May 21, 2016. These findings are entirely inconsistent. No, I disagree with this entirely. And the reason why is because I think that these verdicts can be entirely reconciled with each other if you have if they have them saying, listen, we find that there wasn't abuse going on, but we think that that the statements made by by Adam Waldman that about the specifics of sort of faking up a scenario went too far in terms of how much specific detail. And so it's not saying that we find that the abuse happened. They'd be saying that they find that this sort of frame job in this specific day wasn't, that was a lie. So that's how you get to an entirely consistent verdict. And these two statements can coexist without there being any inconsistency whatsoever. So they say, in overruling Ms. Heard's demur, the court held that the statements, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. And I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. All could convey the same meaning, that Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard. And I think that is, absolutely something that the court found was a lie there. And they note here, because Adam Waldman made the statements that it was a very specific scenario. Yes, he talks about this whole, elaborate scene. The police stated that they found no damage to Scamber or the penthouse. Plot twist, court accepts the argument about inconsistent verdicts and resolves the inconsistency by overturning the one statement Amber Heard won on. That would be entertaining, but I don't think that's likely to happen. I think that the court would have to, if they found inconsistent verdicts, would have to direct a new trial, and I don't think that that's likely to happen. So, somebody says, except it wasn't a lie based on the evidence presented in court and so on. Johnny should never have been found to have defamed Amber on that specific incident. I personally believe that the ultimate reason for this was some horse trading in the back room. One juror didn't want to find defamation at all, and so they ended up coming to this verdict to say, okay, well, we'll have a compromise claim here. So, all right. So they say this implies that Ms. Heard lied and perjured herself when she appeared in court in 2016 to obtain a temporary restraining order against Mr. Depp, and that implies she lied about being a victim of domestic abuse. This holding means that for the jury to have found in Ms. Heard's favor as to her defamation claim, it necessarily had to find that Ms. Heard did not lie about being a victim of domestic abuse, and in particular the incident occurring on May 21, 2016. Again, no. This has to be, this can be that they find that she didn't, sort of engage in the same level of fraud, that the damage might have been from other, sort of scenes. Elaine's first motion didn't rise to the level of malpractice. With this one, she's just walking right into it. I don't think this is malpractice. I think it's just she's trying her best and she's throwing spaghetti at the wall. She's seeing what, if anything, is going to stick. She's got into my head. So, yeah. So the full statement is here. Quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber or Heard's spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their story straight under the direction of a lawyer and publicist, then placed a second call to 911. This case is unique. It involves two essentially mirror image defamation claims. Oh, wait, sorry, So, I mean, you can find that this one is defamatory by finding things like, spilling a little wine and roughing the place up, got their story straight under the direction of a lawyer and publicist, and placed a second call to 911. Like, that's alleging a kind of a frame job. And they can say, no, we don't think it's a frame job, but we also don't think that it's, that there was abuse there. All right. So I don't see how this argument holds water at all. I don't think that these verdicts are irreconcilably inconsistent. I can see how they'd make the argument, but I don't see how they get there. All right, we are at number 3, and I need to take another brief break here. So we'll jump back to fireworks for a moment here. All right, so let's jump back in. I see disputes on the fireworks in terms of some people like them, some people don't. Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, so we see here they say the First Amendment bars recovery for defamation by implication when the statements at issue are true on their face and involve a public figure on matters of public concern. So this is a free speech argument, right? So this is a bit of a different sort of aspect to it. And all right, so just looking here, and I just see, whoops, is there an analogy more apropos to modern Canada than a fireworks display behind barbed wire? Now, this was not actually barbed wire. This is a self-injury protection fence, I guess would be the way to put it. So it's I'm up on top of a bridge that's nearby, and it's kind of funny because there's actually nobody else that was. It was me and one other guy because we're up there. Basically, our job was this bridge was cleared off, and our job was to make sure that nothing, that if any garbage lands on the bridge, we pick it up. But also, we have to especially check to see if there's anything on the bridge that lands that's still spicy. And if anything sort of that hasn't exploded lands on the bridge, our job at that point is to make sure that nobody goes up on the bridge until that's dealt with, because that's a problem. So that's sort of why we were there. But yeah, everyone else, there's lots of people who would have liked to be on the bridge, and the bridge is closed during that time because it's part of the drop zone. All right, so they say the Supreme Court of Virginia has never decided whether their facially true statements can support a claim of defamation by implication when they involve a public figure or matters of public concern. However, they signaled that it doesn't apply in these circumstances. So there is some argument here. This is a strictly legal argument, which is kind of a fun aspect there. I see somebody saying Canadian Glowy confirmed Runkle Eagle's sniper on the bridge. I'm just there to try to keep people or keep anybody from getting hurt, because yeah, it was actually kind of funny because there's a whole bunch of the police have got this bridge locked down, so we occasionally have the police coming out to be like, are you supposed to be here? Yes, we are. We're the fireworks crew. All right. So they're talking about some other aspects here about, they're saying the plaintiffs were public figures and the subject matter touched on matters of public concern, controversy regarding involvement of American troops in the Persian Gulf War. And they say in these circumstances, the constitutional protection of the press reaches its apogee. Here, by contrast, the plaintiff was not a public figure. The defendants were employed by government agencies, but were not officials generally known. The publicity attended the subject matter lasted only a few days, and the freedom of the press is in no way impacted. So I see somebody saying, does this go before Judge A or another judge? This would go before Judge A. So somebody's saying, which juror was juror number 15 on your guys' numbering system during the trial? I don't actually know for certain. And that's a difficulty, but I'll get to that when we get there. So, all right. And they've basically said several jurisdictions have held that defamation by implication is not recognized as a viable cause of action when the statements at issue concern public figures or matters of public concern. And they said that it's actionable only if the statements regard a private individual and private affairs, and that statements about a public figure that is true on its face cannot support a claim for defamation by implication. So basically, because Johnny Depp is so famous, what is it? I'm not going to read that one out just because YouTube gets very particular about these kinds of comments, but I'll leave it up there. But yeah, that is what the fence is for. It's to protect people from their own decisions. And they note that other courts permit actions for defamation by implication of a public figure only when the inference arises from the omission of material facts in the challenged communication. Well, wouldn't a material fact be, oh, right, I was totally not actually defamed or not actually abused? Would that not be a material fact that was left out? I kind of feel that that would be a material fact that would be omitted. You know, that, yeah. All right. So they're going to keep going in terms of the reasons for this. Essentially, this is basically saying, and this is, correct to a certain degree, that Mr. Depp, because he is such a public figure, he enjoys less protection from defamation than other people might. And when you think about that, public figures have more ability to respond to it. They can make public statements, and they can respond in those fashions. And also, we kind of expect that as part of becoming a public figure, when you make that choice, you end up sort of giving up sort of some of your right to privacy in those aspects. So that's part of why there's that rationale. Now, I think that this is a better argument because this is a legal argument, and it's not one that they're really saying, hey, you should reject the jury, what the jury's sort of notions are. This is one that this one has some prospect. I don't think it's going to proceed, but I think of their arguments, this is the best of their arguments. And I see somebody saying, why didn't Amber Heard's team bring these points up during trial? Too late to argue their case now, wouldn't you think? I suspect that they probably did argue this during the trial. I would be surprised if they didn't. And I suspect that they're sort of trying to push for a re-argument before they then take this to the Court of Appeal to argue for a reissue there. So, all right. Somebody says, isn't this throwing everything at the wall approach perhaps less effective than one or two best objections? Yes, typically. But there's reasons for it. And here, I think they're going to throw everything they can because they don't really have a really strong good one. And I see, love you, Ian, got a punch out. Thank you for staying for a while there. See, I always remember Rumpel and the tap end story when it comes to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. All the SJW types and feminists demanded Jay Featherstone fine for the woman, even though she was making up lies. Maybe that would be a fun one to cover at some point and sort of go over that one. All right. So, what is it? They say, third, where public affairs are concerned, the publication of true statements is encouraged, and there can be no civil or criminal liability for such, regardless of ill will or improper motive on the part of the speaker. Now, again, true statements, there's a difference here in the sense of this is one of those statements that's technically true in the sense of she became a representative for domestic violence, but the implication of it, like the aspect of it, is is that he was an abuser. I think that we're really splitting hairs here, and I don't think that the court is likely to accept it in this particular circumstance. This doesn't seem like it makes a whole lot of sense there. And so I'm just looking here. They say this is public figures needing to prove actual malice, right? The legal definition, not the Elaine definition. Yes, and I think that the issues that they're talking about here are pretty much covered by the actual malice aspect. I also see here, but then you get the bad argument that Nick Sandman was a de facto celebrity because of the notoriety of the video, and they labeled him defamation proof as well. I don't think that flies with his circumstance, because before that, like before the video, nobody knew who he was. You can't really say that because you defamed them that they become a celebrity. Otherwise, that protection doesn't exist. So yeah. They say, at trial, Mr. Depp did not present evidence that the statements were untrue on their face. He proceeded exclusively on a theory of defamation by implication. He also did not attempt to prove that the alleged implication arose from the juxtaposition of facts or omission of material facts in the op-ed. Well, I disagree on that, because an omission of material facts in the op-ed would be they omitted that she was actually the abuser, right? Like, I became the public face of domestic violence. Sure, that's true, but what it implies by leaving out the material fact of she the one doing the domestic violence is kind of at the opposite, right? So it's yeah, that's this is a frustrating argument, but it's one of these frustrating arguments that I'm like, okay, there's an argument to be made here, but I think it's gonna fail really badly. And you can see me sort of this, I saw a lot of people when I was talking about my health issues. They're going, "Oh, is this a headache?" It's not a headache, the health issues, but I feel like I'm gonna get one reading this. And yeah, they say there's no dispute. Mr. Depp is a public figure. He is expressing, I guessing that was supposed to be expressly admitted he was a public figure, and tacitly conceded this point by tendering jury instructions that required him to prove actual malice. Of course he's a public figure. He's Johnny freaking Depp. Nobody's arguing that because it's absolutely ridiculous to argue otherwise. So, yeah. So, I don't think this one's going to fly. It's, I guess, fair ball to try. The jury's finding of defamation by implication with respect to the op-ed headline by statement is contrary to the law and unsupported by the facts. So I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Okay. So they're saying that there was no evidence that she either initially made or published or republished through a tweet the headline statement. The headline. Okay, that's going to be interesting because the jury obviously had to find the other way. No support for the conclusion that she initially made or published the headline. The newspaper added the headline, and she played no role in authoring the publication of the headline statement. This one is not going to fly. What she's arguing basically is that the jury could not have found that they're saying no reasonable jury that she published could find that she published the headline. But the argument is a republication aspect. The argument is that by retweeting it, that she republished it. And obviously that's what the jury concluded. So I don't see how that could be, how they could get to anywhere else there. Judging by this decision, this is not a decision. This is arguments from Amber Heard. Celebrities are defamation proof only if the defamer is not also a celebrity. Then the burden is lowered to malice. No, I mean, the standard is just actual malice in general. Didn't matter that Amber Heard was a celebrity and so forth. Yeah. And isn't she claiming that she represents domestic violence? Was any agency using her story in domestic violence flyers or posters or advertisements for domestic violence awareness? The ACLU made her sort of their ambassador. So, yeah. I mean, they already argued this. It went to the jury. Absolutely. So, yes, that... It was a quote tweet. Yes, she quoted this. It was a tweet with a link. Yeah, she by doing so, there was a situation of she republished this, and that's what the jury can certainly find, and that that she sent out that headline. So, yeah. And I mean, certainly there are ways you can tweet out a link without it putting up the headline. That was certainly something she could have done. Or she could have just made reference to it and said, go check it out on this site. They published an article about me. So yeah, and they say, and the link was very clearly visible when she posted the tweet. Yes, we didn't actually. I might have liked to see some evidence called just as to what it looks like when you post. I mean, I can't fault Depp's team for not calling this because they won, right? It wasn't needed, and I'm sure the jury has tweeted before. But, when you post up these quote tweets, you can see the headline. She would have seen it there. She said, today I published. Yes. It was absolutely, the evidence was absolutely there that would enable a jury to reasonably come to this conclusion. I don't think this one's going to fly. Ms. Heard's tweet linking the article or newspaper article does not constitute republication under applicable law and the facts. So they're going to be making this argument. They follow the single publication rule under which the mass distribution of defamatory communications, such as internet posts, are not deemed to be republished each time the communication is reposted or repeated. The public policy supporting the single publication rule and the traditional principles of republication dictate that a mere hyperlink without more cannot constitute republication. Gee, And so if she just hit retweet, she might have been okay. But she did the quote tweet, and she added, "Today I published," and she put in a bunch of other stuff. So, it's not just a mere hyperlink. A mere hyperlink as well just only contains the content of the hyperlink itself. And the hyperlink itself can be anything, right? It might be something like www.newspaper.com/ and then the headline separated out by hyphens. Sometimes you get hyperlinks that look like that where you can see the whole headline in it. But a lot of the time, the hyperlink is just something like, www.site.com/ bunch of numbers and letters, .html, and then that takes you to the article, right? The hyperlink itself, whatever the actual content of the hyperlink is, even if the hyperlink itself included the full headline, she would, she'd be protected on that. But there was more than just a hyperlink. She was republishing she resubmitted that headline. So I don't see how she can do that. And she, there was more to it. She added to it. She endorsed it by doing so. So certainly, and the jury could decide, hey, we don't think that's enough. We don't, we've heard the legal standard, because certainly the jury was told the legal standard on that. And the jury decided that was sufficient. Like, the jury applied facts to law. What's a jury's job to do? Oh, right, exactly that. Frustrating. So, yeah, when they're saying, even if the tweet includes a mere reference to the article, but it's not, they had more than that. So they're saying, rather, republication requires 1, editing and retransmitting the defamatory material, or 2, redistributing the material with the goal of reaching a new audience. Gee, did she want to reach a new audience? Oh, like, say, her Twitter followers who might not have seen the article? Is that why you're sharing this art? Yes. So they say, stated differently, a republication occurs when the speaker has affirmatively reiterated the statement. Oh, right. That was entirely something that would be reasonable to conclude there. So he's saying it wasn't a quote tweet. It was just a link that she pasted into her own tweet, which is even more republication to me than quote tweeting. I mean, it would be, yeah, but she did add to it. And she says, moreover, a brief reference to the linked article does not constitute editing the article. And she didn't have to include the preview and any of that stuff. And, it was more than a mere reference. She says, although Ms. Heard's tweet, so they're actually finally going to engage with the facts here, called attention to the article and indicated she was the author, the tweet did not edit or add content to the article in a manner sufficient to overcome Virginia's single publication rule. Well, they were told the rule, and the jury found that, yes, it did. So she also never wanted to reach a new audience. Tweeting a link to a prominent global newspaper article does not redistribute the material to a new audience as a matter of law. Well, I can't see how you can't say that she's not trying to spread that around. She's trying to bring it to a new audience of her particular followers. However, there is some case law that says sharing a link on Twitter is not alone enough to make a prima facie showing that they manifested an intent to direct the article at a Virginia audience. I don't think this is likely to succeed, because this is essentially just saying, hey, the jury got it wrong. Jury got it wrong arguments are really unlikely to be successful as a general rule, right? Their jury got it wrong is almost always gonna fail. So I see somebody saying, can Amber Heard claim mental health to get out of paying the money? No. That is a judgment there that she's not going to be able to get to say, hey, she might have been able to do that at trial. She might have been able to say there was no actual malice because I'm just so messed up in my head that I thought this was true. But she didn't make that argument at trial, and there's good reasons for her not to. That would be a public relations disaster. So next, Mr. Depp did not present evidence of actual malice. All right, so a public figure may not recover damages for a defamatory falsehood without clear and convincing proof that the false statement was made with actual malice. And let's see if they actually quote the proper actual malice standard, because in her closing, she was trying to say malice is like, were you malicious? Were you evil? Were you, twirling your mustache and cackling as you tie the truth to the railroad tracks? Well, that's not the standard. The standard is, oh, hey, and here they actually quote something that is a good standard. The defendant realized that his statement was false or that he subjectively entertained serious doubt as to the truth of his statement. Well, in this case, how do you not get to actual malice? Because it's one thing if, let's say I'm sitting there and I've heard a rumor that, Joe Smith did something terrible. And I heard this rumor from sources I believe. Maybe it was printed in a newspaper. Maybe it was something like that. And I believe that Joe Smith did a terrible thing. So I write my own news article and I say Joe Smith did the terrible thing. Well, in terms of the actual malice, I might not realize that statement was false. I might believe it to be true. And I might not have entertained serious doubt as to the truth of the statement. I might have believed that it was true, genuinely in my heart. But if I say I saw Joe Smith, murder a bunch of babies with a shovel, you're not going to be, you've got two outcomes. It's either, yes, that happened, that Joe Smith did that terrible thing, or else I have to be acting with actual malice because I have to have known that it was false because I'm saying I saw it personally. Unless there's some sort of weird case about, like that I saw a hologram or, something like that. But yeah, I see a question here. Somebody's asking, will it be Judge A? Yes, it will. Judge Ascarati will be reviewing this one. And don't defame retired basketball player Joe Smith. I'm not talking about retired basketball player Joe Smith. I am talking about hypothetical human being who doesn't exist, Joe Smith. And hypothetical human being is defamation proof on account of doesn't exist, doesn't have a reputation to. And they say courts have a constitutional duty to exercise independent judgment and determine whether the record establishes actual malice with convincing clarity. And it does, because if you have falsehood, then you're going to get to actual malice. Somebody says that one recording was about as convincing an argument for actual malice as any I've ever heard. Go ahead and tell the world you're a victim of abuse. And the key bit was the bit not quoted there, and that's probably because of just quotation or text limits. See who believes you. That's enough for a jury to say, hey, listen, we actually think that this is actual malice because of course, yeah. All right. And I see somebody asking, it should be going out in 720. I see somebody saying that they're only getting a 144p option. So it should be 720, hopefully. All right. Yeah. And somebody says, I'm not, she's going to take no messing around. She's been extremely fair so far. I don't think that's going to change. Absolutely. She's been 100% fair, and I don't think she's going to, I don't think she's going to be dealing with that. Somebody says, is this the only Elaine filing you've seen? I've seen at least one more, I think. Been seeing this nonsense from her for a few years now. Emotions are laughable, frustrating, really, but best way to deal with them. Yeah, so I don't know what the deal is there. Somebody says, if the judgment is finalized, isn't time up? No, she can still file this. I don't think that's going to be a problem there. Did your audio where Johnny tells Amber at this point, I might need the police, and Amber mocks him? Yeah, I mean, she's like, go ahead and tell the world. So importantly, there's significant difference between proof of actual malice and mere proof of falsity. Discredited testimony of the defendant standing alone does not constitute clear and convincing evidence of actual malice. Rather, the plaintiff must present affirmative evidence that the defendant acted with the requisite state of mind, which, let's look at that case. Palin and New York Times Company. That would have been a case about a newspaper publishing a statement. Newspaper. That's a critical thing because the newspaper is going to be reporting on things where, we've heard this from a witness. We've heard, this is the news story. We've heard this, getting around. This is very different from somebody who's saying, I experienced the things. Actual malice flows from that pretty easily. So they say determination of actual malice cannot be predicated on the fact finder's negative assessment of the speaker's credibility at trial. I feel that the distinction there is very different when you're talking about newspaper versus person who says they experienced it personally. This is, I think, a really weaselly argument. I mean, if I was in their position, I'd probably try to make it too, because what else are you going to throw at this? But this is so not good. This is real bad. Real bad. All right. In this case, proving actual malice required showing that at the time the op-ed was published, Ms. Heard did not believe she was abused or that she entertained serious doubt about whether she was abused. The jury finds that it was a lie that she was abused. They found that it was an absolute lie that she was abused. That's what is clear from this verdict. So how can she have, a belief that she was abused if the jury is finding she's lying about it? Other than if she's deluded or, so yeah. Further, because actual malice is a subjective standard, whether Ms. Heard believes she was abused must be judged by her definition of abuse. Ms. Heard testified unequivocally that Mr. Depp abused her physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Mr. Depp presented no evidence that Ms. Heard does not believe abuse can be physical, emotional, or psychological. Yes, but it's clear that they didn't believe her accounts at all. And also, you have to look at, some of the, when we're talking about the implications there, the sexual aspect is kind of a big deal. Somebody says, please check out the amended pretrial hearing transcript filed last week. It is hilarious to see how snarky Ben Chu is off camera. I'm going to have to check that out. Somebody send me a link to that if you can, because, yeah. So, yeah. This just, I think this is a pretty weak argument here. Ample undisputed evidence supports Ms. Heard's belief that Mr. Depp abused her. For example, what is it? So they say, Ms. Heard asked Ms. Heard to cut him with a knife, and she threatened to cut himself in her presence when she refused to comply. And so they're talking about recordings and so forth. Again, they can find that she didn't she didn't believe that was abusive. That's certainly within the jury's, prerogative, that she didn't. The jury can conclude things about her mental state. That is open for the jury to do. Destroying property, pushing over racks of clothes, forbidding her from acting in movies and having meetings, and, various other things here. But again, the jury is entitled to reject evidence. The jury is entitled to find whatever they think. So this is, again, the jury is dumb, and you should totally not go with their verdict, which is not a thing that the courts tend to do there. All right. So, more things about his paint and his own blood. I can see reasons why the jury might not have found that to be abusive. Gee, why was he bleeding on that occasion? Does anybody know why he was bleeding? Oh, right. Yeah. So Penny has karate, knew what she was talking about when she said, you're just a snarky guy, I guess. So, yeah, that's, so to question whether, the question is not whether the jury rejected that the above conduct constitutes abuse as an objective matter. The question is subjective. It is whether Mr. Depp proved that these events did not cause Ms. Heard to believe she was abused. Mr. Depp presented no evidence that Ms. Heard seriously doubted she was abused, and thus failed to prove actual malice. Well, again, the jury can certainly conclude that she was lying about when she said she was abused. They can determine what they think happened. And if the jury comes to the conclusion that she is a malicious liar, that she was intentionally lying about all of this, then yeah, that's a reasonable conclusion for that. So yeah, they're just going to keep going here. And they say Mr. Depp did not present sufficient evidence to support a finding of defamation by innuendo. So when a plaintiff claims that he was defamed by statements that are literally true because of a false implication arising from them, then the implication must be reasonably drawn from the words actually used. Okay, so is it reasonable to conclude that Miss Heard says that Johnny Depp abused her from those, from those statements? Well, I think that yes, a jury could absolutely get to that conclusion. And yeah. So they say no evidence surrounding the op-ed's publication would reasonably cause a reader to believe the title of the online edition is about Mr. Depp. She admitted it. She admitted it at trial. Don't believe my lying client when she says it was about Mr. Depp. And who the hell else is it going to be about? Like, who else is this gonna... I guess maybe it's about one of the people she was, seeing on the side. I don't know. Somebody says, am I going to the Brooks v. Depp case? Probably not, because I suspect that one's going to settle. That would be my bet. That's the one with the guy who's, on the stand. I suspect that'll probably settle for nuisance amounts. So, yeah. So this is giving me an annoyance. This is giving me, yeah. All right. So evidence is admissible to show the circumstances surrounding the making and publication of the statement, which would reasonably cause the statement to convey defamatory meaning to its recipients. So, yes, absolutely. I mean, how would you not get to this being about Depp? So, this here is going to be frustrating. So during opening statements, counsel for Mr. Depp forecasted that with respect to the title, he would present no evidence of circumstances surrounding the publication of the op-ed that would suggest the title is about Mr. Depp. Counsel stated. So let's look at what they're saying. After this lawsuit was filed, Ms. Heard started making up more and more alleged incidents of abuse. And if you'll recall, ladies and gentlemen, the headline of the op-ed references sexual violence. Ms. Heard had never made that accusation against Mr. Depp. It was never part of her allegations of abuse. So what changed? What changed between 2016 and 2018? We submit to you, and the evidence will show, when she realized the seriousness of what she had alleged, she panicked and she alleged sexual assault. So they're saying basically that this says that he's not going to be suggesting it's about Mr. Depp because it's a new allegation. No, this is a credibility point. This is a point of credibility saying that she's lying. This is not saying that she... no. Elaine, no. Just no. So they're saying, in other words, Mr. Depp's theory was that allegations of sexual assault made after the op-ed's publication and after the commencement of the instant action caused readers to understand the title to be about Mr. Depp. Or readers understood the title to be about Mr. Depp and understood that this was now a new allegation being made against Mr. Depp. That seems more likely. That is the more plausible implication. Gee, freaking. It's even pissing off Zora. You can hear that. Zora is like, what the heck? Stop it. So, yeah, this is really, really bizarre. I mean, further, nothing in the op-ed suggests the title is about Mr. Depp. The title states Ms. Heard spoke up against SV, which, although that ship has sailed, which does not suggest that she spoke up about violence by a particular person, as opposed to violence in general. But again, the jury is open to conclude who she was talking about and who she meant to hint. Like that. Like the jury is open to concluding this. My wife must have stepped outside. Now the dogs are very upset that they're being that they're not on their own. 1 second. Sorry, I just had to ask the pups if they could knock it off a little bit here. Oh, this argument is mind-croggling. Just absolutely no. Just no. Don't. Yeah. So what are the court's options after receiving this document? Can they reject or dismiss it entirely or in part? They can do either of those things. They could accept one argument and reject others, or more likely, I think they're going to toss all of them. So, yeah. Baby Gator, thanks for the new membership here. Somebody says, I yelled at the dogs. That's abuse towards Amber Heard. I actually just called out to the dogs. I was like, dogs, do you mind? And the dogs quieted down a little bit. So, yeah. All right. And so no evidence established contemporaneous facts surrounding the publication of the op-ed that would reasonably cause a reader to understand any of the statements as conveying a defamatory implication about Mr. Depp. Again, this is an argument of, the jury is stupid and they came to bad decisions, which is always a terrible argument unless it's really established or really sort of a difficult one there. Somebody says, what's my opinion about Rottenborn calling Johnny Depp an animal during closing? I mean, it's he's open to do that, but I don't think it worked for him. I don't think it helped him at all. So at trial, Mr. Depp's theory of defamation was that the op-ed implied Mr. Depp abused Ms. Heard. And she also admitted to that. Like, she also admitted that it was about him. And so Mr. Depp maintained that this implication arose from the op-ed because on May 27th, 2016, she obtained a domestic violence restraining order against him. No court in Virginia has ever permitted circumstances so distant from a publication to serve as innuendos, showing the publication conveys a defamatory implication. When the publication on its face does not show that it applies to plaintiff, the publication is not actionable unless the circumstances and supporting contemporaneous facts connect the defamatory words to the plaintiff. Gee, would it be possible that she might have admitted this at trial? So was behind on the video and wondered if you've ever read or seen the play The Hunchback Variations. I have not, but if it's about the Hunchback of Notre Dame, I am curious. So, yep. This is frustrating. I see somebody saying, don't let Runkle's blood pressure get too high. Thankfully, my blood pressure, as measured by a doctor, is pretty solid, so I'm doing good on that. It's just other mystery problems that I'm still working on here. So they're talking about it has to be in a relatively short period of time, some of which clearly identify the plaintiffs and others which do not. I mean, she stated that it was about him. And obviously, of course, it's about him. Like, Mr. Depp cannot recover for statements Ms. Heard made during judicial proceedings, and he failed to prove that any statement in the op-ed implies he abused Ms. Heard. So, and I see, why was Depp treated as a public person in this situation? I can understand publications seeing him that way, but they were married, and the allegations referred to their private life. There isn't sort of a firewall. It's once you're a public person, then everything about your life is potentially a public thing, which is kind of dangerous. I mean, I don't know if I qualify as a public person based on doing this YouTube stuff. A court, that would be an issue for the court to determine. But, if I am a public person, and I'm not saying I am, for court purposes, I expressly disclaim that. But then, other aspects of my life might be of public interest. If you're talking about, Kevin Spacey, um, every aspect of his life might be of public interest, especially the prurient ones. So, yeah. And I see everyone go watch Jackson Bryan does such excellent work. Yes, they did a live stream yesterday, and check that out. And yes, and I see. Please keep joining Rob's Trial of the Centuries. It was surprised to see you last time, and you are a great third. I love doing those. I won't always be able to do them, but when I can, I will absolutely want to pop on for those because yeah, they're awesome. And I may do some myself, just talking about some of the trials that happen out here. I kind of want to do Dudley and Stevens because I think Dudley and Stevens is a fun one. Sky is a neighborhood. Interestingly, I think Rottenborn has been on the case longer than Elaine, but she appears more dominant on the case. She's the primary person, and I think Rottenborn's the better lawyer. Just is there. So, yeah. So Ben Shu did say that if she wasn't talking about Johnny Depp, you'll find her op-ed at the back of Teen Vogue magazine. Yeah, I mean that's why everyone was publishing it, is because everyone knew that it was about Johnny Depp. Everyone was interested in this because it was about Johnny Depp. Quite frankly, Amber Heard, as much as she thinks she's the top shit on the planet, and not just the top shit on Depp's sheets, was she was, nobody really cared about Amber Heard as much. They cared because of the Johnny Depp tie-in. So, having done legal office work, is Eileen getting paid by the word? This is so disjointed, and the typos are driving me nuts. Yes, this was clearly reviewed by just doing spell check, and you can't just do spell check. You're lawyers, people. You got to actually go through this and spell you got junior associates. You got somebody who's been at the firm for like 10 minutes, and you just get them to go through and find all of these spelling mistakes. It's not hard. I had to do plenty of this when I was an articling student. Like, hey, here, I've written this. Can you go through and review it? Find my spelling mistakes, find stuff to rewrite. And a lot of this is repetitive. There's a lot of places where it's like, oh, right, I already read this argument. It's not the worst motion I've ever read by a long stretch, but it's not great. And this is not millions of dollars work. This is not. So yeah, spell checks don't usually catch wrong words that are actually spelled right, but in context makes no sense. You need humans for that. This is something they should have put a human on, and they didn't, I don't think. Or the human that they put it on did not do a good job. Heard's worst enemy to this motion is herself, and this filing is a sour grapes from Rotten Brain, and I'm trying Elaine. What a dream team for Depp. I mean, Rottenborn, I think, would be a really good lawyer if you gave him good facts. But he doesn't have good facts. He's got the worst case. And I think, and I also am going to give Rottenborn some credit for one thing, which is that after the case is done, he's just poof. I haven't heard a word about Rottenborn in the media, and that I think is absolutely the right call to do. And I give him props for that. I think he made some smarter moves there. Actually hope he has a promising career. I don't like that he's on Amber Heard's side on this, but that is that's just how law is, right? Sometimes you're defending people who are not likable. I'm not faulting him for that at all. I think he did as good of a work as he can do there. So, yeah, it's, and somebody says he's a great lawyer. He did a phenomenal job with the crap case he had. Every lawyer, it's really easy to look amazing if you have great facts. And it's really hard to look anything other than bad when you have bad facts. So, the real tests of a bad lawyer are you going to screw up a case with great facts? Or the test of a really good lawyer is, can you do well with a case that has bad facts? And, so Yeah. All right. So why is Julian Assange calling himself Runkle? Yeah, that's the some of the things. A good workman never blames his tools. I mean, the thing is it's tough to make a good case out of bad materials. So yeah. All right. So they say, as explained above. So this is again kind of a repetition of the date argument. Uh, And they say it is settled law in Virginia that words spoken or written in a judicial proceeding are relevant and pertinent to the matter, or uniquely or absolutely privileged. So yes, I mean she's got privilege or with respect to the stuff about obtaining a restraining order, but not with respect to the stuff she does outside the courtroom. Uh, that is so. And defamation claims are subject to a 1-year statute of limitations. Statements made during the restraining order period proceedings are time barred. Yes. But this is, again, they're trying to use the... I don't see how this follows. They're saying that because these statements are protected by judicial immunity and time barred to the op-ed through claim of defamation by implication, it doesn't mean that the jury can't look at the circumstances. Like, they're saying that if a reader was previously aware, like, you can absolutely, this makes no sense. You can't, like, if I, if somebody committed a murder 15 years ago, you might not be able to bring a civil suit against them for damages related to that murder. Here in Canada, there's no limitation period in terms of bringing criminal proceedings. But if you accused somebody of being involved with that murder from 15 years ago, that's a new statement. That's a today's statement. I don't see how their argument about the time limitation matters when that statement is then reissued. I don't think this argument makes any sense. Okay, moving on. Let's have a look at this, and let's look at one that a lot of people have been asking questions about. They're saying, so I love his hair. My wife said he reminds her of Geralt. I get a lot of that. I'm going to probably do some more streaming later, and been sort of going through The Witcher. And Dick Tracy is a great reference as well, by the way. And with the facts, Rottenby's rage towards Johnny Depp was gross. I mean, you gotta kind of pound the table. It is what it is. I don't like it, but yeah. And we've got an Amber Heard fan in the crowd here, and that's fine. So yeah. And somebody says there were women in Magic Mike ? Yeah, I don't think that's why people were watching it. Playing The Witcher or not streaming it, bad Runkle. I have not been playing it since the stream. I only got like a little distance in it, but I'm gonna try to stream more Witcher later. All right, so let's keep going here. The court should conduct an investigation of juror number 15 and whether juror service was proper and due process was protected. All right. So thank you, Joloy, for great content that has a good direction. So the court should investigate whether juror 15 properly served on the jury. This is going to be wild, folks. On the juror panel as sent to counsel before voir dire, the court noted that the individual who would later be designated juror 15 had a birth year of 1945. Juror 15, however, was clearly born later than 1945. Gee, that seems, if juror 15 was clearly born later than 1945, if only there was some way that somebody could have noticed this before Friday. Is there any way that they could have noticed this? Come on. Like, publicly available information demonstrates that he appears to have been born in 1970. Okay. This discrepancy raises the question of whether Juror 15 actually received a summons for jury duty and was properly vetted by the court to serve on the jury. So, and they're saying, so this is Virginia code. At the time of assembly for the purpose of juror selection, the identity of each member of the jury veneer, so the or the sort of larger panel who then becomes, who they pick from, shall be verified as provided in this section. Prior to being selected from the jury veneer, a potential juror shall verify his identity by presenting to the person taking jury attendance any of the following forms of identification: his Commonwealth of Virginia voter registration card, his social security card, his valid Virginia driver's license, or any other identification card issued by a government agency of the Commonwealth, one of his political subdivisions, or the United States, or any valid employee identification card containing a photograph of the juror and issued by an employer of the juror in the ordinary course of the employer's business. If the juror is unable to present one of these forms of identification, he shall sign a statement affirming, under penalty of perjury, that is the named jury. Now, I'll just talk about this a little bit because people talk about, voter ID and so forth. And we can see that in terms of identity stuff, they actually allow for a whole lot of, a whole lot of different ways you can prove it. You can prove it with any ID issued by basically any sort of U.S. government, Virginia or the United States, or you can prove it with an employee identification card, so long as it has a photograph. But you can also just swear an oath, right? And that's, that's fine too. Now, they haven't said that the names don't match. They haven't said that there wasn't anything else. What they're saying is, thus the court's clerk's office had a statutory obligation to verify the identity of Juror 15, but because Juror 15 was not born in 1945, it appears his identity could not have been verified through any of the means of identification the code provides. Or it was just a typo. Like, that could be a thing. Do people ever make typos, Elaine, in this motion that's full of them? Also, and it raises questions about whether and how Juror 15 could have signed a statement affirming, under penalty of perjury, that he was the named juror if he was 25 years younger than the person the court recognizes Juror 15. Or he just checked the name. Like, that is, people probably didn't check any of this beforehand. So I think Judge A is going to yeet this motion into the sun on this point. I think this one is going to just go gone. 15 must be using Amica cream. Yeah, everybody wants his, his skincare regime. They're doxing the juror. I don't think that this is quite to that point, but yeah. I mean, they'd have the name and they would have checked his ID against the name. And what I suspect is that nobody nobody noticed the age discrepancy. So, yeah. And it would have been the person who shows up in response to the juror summons, right? Because, yeah. Now, there's some really interesting aspects here. They say, although the Virginia Supreme Court has previously construed this to be directory rather than mandatory, which means basically a suggestion for how this happens rather than something that must be followed or else the jury gets thrown out. It has observed that adherence to the provisions of this code is required to the extent necessary to ensure due process. Do we feel that due process wasn't imposed when you had an entire period where you could have struck this guy? Like, if you had, when they're doing jury selection, they could have just gone, hey, wait a minute, this guy, it says 1945, he's clearly not that old, struck. And I think that I've heard that this was juror number 3. And in that case, you would obviously see that the guy wasn't, 25 years older. So, yeah. I see he's 52. Which juror was that on your chart? That was probably juror. I mean, I've heard people say juror number 3, who was or juror C, who was Asian and his age was kind of harder to pick out because he had a mask. It could also have been juror 6, the older gentleman. That's more likely. And I don't think anyone was going to confuse this guy for, 77. 77's pretty freaking old, right? So apologies to the 77-year-olds, but I mean, I don't think that there's many 77-year-olds who feel that they look and feel the same way they did at 52. Certainly at 40, I don't look and feel the same way I did at 20. When I was 20, I had less gray hair. Like, there was still some darker hair in this mix. And, I wasn't having to take breaks midway through a live stream because I feel, yeah. So, yeah. And I see some people saying, could the son of the person selected have come forward to serve for his father who may not be fit for jury service? Who the heck gets a juror summons and then goes, ooh, I want this? Like, yeah, nobody. And in most places, I don't know if it's there, if this is the way in Virginia, but usually you don't get told which case you're getting juror summons for. You just get a jury summons and you show up and they send you into the room to go and ask for it. So now here's a really, so they say it therefore follows that adherence is necessary to ensure due process, even if it is viewed as directory rather than mandatory. So it's directory, but we want you to treat it as mandatory anyway, because reasons. Like, either it's directory or it's mandatory, and you can't swap one in for the other just because you don't like the standard there. Now, here's something that I think is absolutely amazing. The brass on this one. Ms. Heard recognizes that Virginia Code, and they state the number, states that any error in the information shown on the jury panel shall not be grounds for mistrial or assignable as error on appeal. And the parties in this case shall be responsible for verifying the accuracy of such information. Okay, shall not be grounds for a mistrial or an error on appeal. Shall not. That's pretty clear. And the parties in this case shall be responsible. Shall be responsible. They have a positive duty for verifying the accuracy of that information. We, as a party in this case, had a duty to verify it. We didn't do that during the trial. And now we want to raise an issue because we fucked up. Pardon my language. Like, come on. No, just no. Stop it. Oh. If I was Judge A, I would have some comments about this. They would be loud. They would be pointed. I'd be going full Marine on this. I'd be going like, if I was Judge A, I'd be digging into, drill sergeant voice for this. Like, no. But the apparent error in the jury information form related to Jury 15 is not the basis for Ms. Heard's concerns. It is the potential that Juror 15 was not, in fact, the same individual that the court assigned as Juror 15 and/or was not verified by the court clerk's office as required by Virginia Code. This would require setting aside the verdict and ordering a new trial. Do you have any evidence of this? Anything? Like, is there even an iota of this? Do you have even a whisper of this beyond an error on a form? Because this, I think, is where, if this filing goes into the weeds of getting into trouble, this is where it happens. Because this is where you're starting to suggest some pretty serious crap about this jury. And yeah. So this desperate motion I can understand. What I don't accept is when the media enables this stuff uncritically by taking Amber Heard's team at face value. Yes, the media does not have the tools to assess these kinds of things. And they really need to before they start talking about it, because I've seen all sorts of things going, ooh, Juror 15 was not who they said they were, and so forth. There's not an iota of evidence or points here in this to make that out. And I kind of want to go full Emily D. Baker coffee and cursey words on this. Yeah. Motherfucker, you do not suggest this kind of conspiracy without some sort of evidence. And especially not when you had a positive obligation to make these inquiries at the time of, and and you didn't. You could have had this juror struck off, you could have had this done way back when, when they were doing jury selection. You could totally have had that done. Oh, yeah. I am not happy with this. So to the extent that the individual who served as juror 15 was not, in fact, the same individual on the veneer, or that the court clerk's office did not verify his identity, Ms. Heard's due process was compromised by your failure to do the investigation that you had an obligation to do per the statute. Yeah. If you're saying that our due process was compromised by your own failure to do those investigations, you are alleging that you, as counsel, fucked up. You are alleging an error as a lawyer that should probably bounce you off the file if this is the argument you want to make. This is the kind of argument that if you're going to make it on appeal, you need to get a new lawyer, because you need to be able to throw the previous lawyer all the way under the bus to make this kind of argument. You need to be able to say, previous lawyer screwed up. Previous lawyer screwed up to a degree that, is egregious, and that lawyer has to go all the way under the bus wheels so that the new lawyer can make this argument. You do not make an argument like this about yourself. You just do not. Full stop. There are ethical implications to arguing this kind of thing about yourself. No, bad and wrong. So bad and wrong. Yeah. We failed due diligence, so please wipe our butts. Yeah, it's yeah, Emily V. Baker, who I'm a huge fan of, would be saying, facts not fuckery. This is fuckery. Yeah. Virginia code does not contemplate jury service by someone not on the veneer for good reason. You haven't shown a whisper of evidence that that's what happened. In any case, but especially a high-profile case such as this one, it is critical to ensure no person who is not on the veneer is able to serve on the jury, whether by inadvertence or intention. And you had a positive obligation to do that yourself, and you did not. So that's on you, Elaine. And I see for the Kersey jar. Well, thank you very much. I may need it for this one. So here the facts show that juror 15 was decades younger than the individual on the jury panel list, raising questions as to whether they were the same or different people. Did you raise this beforehand? Did you raise this? Or here's the other thing. This is, and I don't know that this is what happened, but this is something that is considered wildly improper, which is if they spotted this error at the time and then sat on it to create an appellate issue, that is a real big thing, and the courts will spank that with emphasis. So, this is another reason why you might need other counsel, because you might, for instance, need to call the first counsel to ask them, did you see this at the time? Was this a tactical decision, or was this you just not spotting it? So, Ms. Heard further requests this court to take appropriate action based upon the results of this investigation, including, if appropriate, ordering a new trial. I think the appropriate action at this point is to say, okay, you guys have 30 seconds to start, well, you know what? We'll go a little further. You guys have 30 minutes to tender some whisper of something other than a vague possibility here. Because if you don't, I would start, and I'd ask, when did you spot this? Why didn't you spot this? Did you guys not do jury investigation? Was this not a trial where you had millions of dollars to play with? millions of dollars. You don't think that they checked out every juror that came up there? Uh, you don't think that they did all of this and had a real look at it? How? So if I was Judge Ascarati, I'd be asking, hey, I got some real questions for you. And if you guys can't get to some, if you guys can't back this up before the end of this, I'm going to be coming out with, I'm going to be coming out with a hammer there. So, yeah. So, Kate Co, I'm 76 and I'm still getting asked out by guys 20 to 30 youngers and even like 29 last year. Otherwise, the reaction to 77 would have really stung. Aging really accelerates in the 70s. You go. That's fantastic. I hope you're having the time of your life out there. That's pretty awesome. And question, is this just a case of throw everything and pray something sticks? This one I'd want to pray doesn't stick, because this is a case of throwing knives at your own face to a certain degree. I don't know why they're making this argument. This is a real bad one. And are they trying to argue that their lawyers are stupid? Yes, kind of. Kind of. So, and somebody says, I was there, was juror 15 on the final panel. Here's the thing. I don't actually know which one this is for certain. And the reason why is because they're wearing little number cards, but when they sit down, you can't see that. And when they're walking in and out, you can't see that. So I wasn't spotting those numbers, and I really wish I'd tried my best to do that as much as I could. But yeah, I don't know if they're trying to say that it was the Asian guy who, might be 50s, maybe, but a really young looking one, if so, or if it's the, juror 6, who I had thought maybe 60s, but yeah. So rumor is Amber Heard can't afford to pay current lawyers. How would it work if Elaine and Rottenborn are found to have screwed up, but she can't afford new lawyers? I mean, she might have to represent herself. But this is so bad. So conclusion, for all the reasons said above and for the reasons set forth on the record, including blah, 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 she respectfully requests this court to set aside the jury verdict in favor of Mr. Depp and against Ms. Heard in its entirety and dismiss the complaint. So she's asking that they just say Amber wins. She doesn't have to pay any money. There was no defamation. Off she goes. Court's not going to want to do that. Really not going to want to do that. And or in the alternative, order a new trial. Court's still not going to want to do that. I don't think that they're going to issue it. So yeah. I see Uncivil saying this is fun and stupid. Yeah, hopefully he meant that the stupid is from Bredehoff's team. I suspect that's what he meant. But yeah, it's super. You can make arguments like this about, somebody screwed up, but you really want to do it from a position of being the lawyer who didn't screw up. Yeah. So Ms. Heard further requests this court to investigate potential improper juror service and take appropriate action warranted by the results of this investigation. I don't think she's gotten to the point of being able to make that ask. I don't think she's got enough information to be able to get there. I think I think she's really running some risk here. Did Amber stare down the wrong juror? I mean, she stared down every juror. She was absolutely trying to sort of see what she could do there. So, yeah, it's frustrating as heck. And I see this. I had a lawyer stupider than this, sacked him during the court, talked to the judge myself. Don't do that. Yeah, it's bizarre. She respectfully asked that. It's like, with all due respect, and then completely disrespecting the judge, court clerk, and jury. You always have to put that in, right? You always have to say, we respectfully request this. That's just how you roll, right? All right. So, I don't think this is going to fly. There's one argument that maybe comes close to an argument that might land, but I don't think that it's going to go anywhere. So, I guess let's talk about fireworks because that's a little more of a fun topic here. So I'll show you guys some pictures of just sort of fireworks setup and so forth. I've showed you some video, but let's yeah, fireworks I think is a more fun topic, and I'll just talk about what's involved. I had some people who were asking me about. I see it'll fly like the Hindenburg. Yes, and explode. Have a Scotch Runkle. I can't. I got to do some work later. So, does the DEP team have to reply to this? I mean, theoretically, they could just say, "We are not filing a reply." They're going to file a reply. Yeah. So that's just going to happen. Just looking here. So let's pull up some fireworks photos here, and I can sort of, sort of show you guys what that's about here. Let me just see here. Can I? All right. So this is one of the fireworks setups, and I'll just talk a little bit about what's going on there. And so each of these tubes, these are, tubes that are rated for explosives, basically. Now, so the ones in the back, the ones in the dumpster that you can see there, those are 8-inch tubes. And the reason why they're in the dumpster is because they fire they got a lot of kick. And so they're in a dumpster full of sand to make sure they don't go anywhere. And I see Judge A, we effed up, so rule against JD. Yeah, kind of. So those are in a dumpster full of sand, and that's just these are all mortars. The reason why those are there is because the kick from that is enough that you really want to have something to absorb that. One of the things that's important for to know for a lot of those shells is that those shells are the way they work is that they'll have at least one explosive charge, and that is what they call the lift charge. That's the charge that takes that shell and puts it up into the sky, because you don't want it blowing up on the ground. And so I see somebody asking, what is slow mode? Slow mode is just, it cuts down on the bots and cuts down on spamming. I've got it on 60 seconds, so I hope that's not too egregious there. I see the DEP team won't miss a chance to mock the crap out of that motion. Oh, I will be there for that. Doesn't look like the mortars I know. Yeah, these are just for fireworks. So, but often they'll have like a lift charge and then another charge that's the burst charge to sort of spread it apart. And they may have further subcharges to make some of those stars themselves pop when they get there. So this is not yet wired up, because this is, which is kind of odd, because it should be wired up. Maybe we just can't see the wires. But they've got some plastic on them for weatherproofing. We actually ended up firing through that plastic. The mortars have like the firework shells have no problems shooting right straight through that. Now, all of these shells, these have already been dropped and planted. All of these shells, each of them is a separate product, although they might be linked together, and they might be sort of connected and bridged together. Everything there was being electronically fired. And electronically fired means that there's a controller. They fire with something called an electronic match. And those electronic matches are, they're just basically a great way to set them off. Now, the alternate way to do that is if you're not firing it with an electric match, sometimes they get fired with if they might be hand fired, in which case you're out there with like a road flare. And that's exciting. I've done that before, but on a big show like this, you're going to do it with a control system so that it's all being done on purpose. I see somebody saying, so it's similar to launching model rockets. I suspect it's very, very similar. And fireworks are illegal here in the city limits. Fire hazard too dry. If it's too dry, they will have to sort of water things down and spray it down so that nothing gets started. If it's too dry and you can't make it safe, then you just don't do it. I'll share with you guys share another photo here with you guys. Just something that's always a little funny here. So I'll just pull this up. So this is the bomb squad, and they always have bomb squad rolling out because we're playing with explosives, right? So they want bomb squad to be there just in case something, in case there's a need for it. I've never seen bomb squad have to do anything other than just show up. Sometimes bomb squad has shown up and played around with their little robot. So I've gotten to see their robot there, and that's pretty cool. So he says, I watched a documentary on the setup of Toronto fireworks display. Very interesting and dangerous for the ones setting it up. I mean, you got to be careful, right? You got to be super cautious and careful in how you do the setup, because you don't want to do anything that is, too risky. And I'll show you one as well from another, from another fireworks day. This one I think is kind of fun. So I'll show you a couple pictures actually. So the first one is this one here. So this is doing a New Year's show. And somebody says, what about fire brigades and EMS? I've never seen EMS shown, but fire is usually out there. So, yeah. So this is from a New Year's show. And what you can see there is this is laid out on a tarp. And the reason why it's out on a tarp is because water is the enemy of a fireworks show. You don't want water to get into anything, especially you can see these, the cakes there, those sort of boxes that you can see. Those cakes are prepackaged, and they're a way to have a lot of stuff go up all at once, and for sort of a reasonable sort of aspect there. Somebody's saying, why are you having fireworks? This one was on a New Year's show, but the fireworks that I just did was for Canada Day. So, yeah. So this was all set up on a tarp. You can actually see in this one really well the wiring that's being set up. And so, yeah, it was a fun show. This was done at super freezing temperatures. This was, I think, 30 below that year. So it really sucked. And let me pull up another picture here just so I can show you how much it sucked, because it was really miserable. I can show you. There we go. So this was me out there trying to do work, because it's a New Year's show, so it's in the dark. So I've got my little headlamp there. But that was me in my sort of wool hat. That thing is really warm, and just trying to stay warm, trying to stay alive there. So thank you for all you do for this, Casey, and you're a really cool human being. Love your tweets. Well, thank you very much. Let me just see if I can find some more stuff from other shows, because yes, here we go. So this will let me show you guys a little bit more in terms of some of the wiring aspects, because there were a lot of people curious about all of this. So here you can see the mortars, and you can see the that sort of red tape there. That's actually the quick match. And if you watch fuses, like that's the fuse. If you watch fuse on the Tom and Jerry cartoons and so forth, though, you'll see it and it lights and it starts slowly burning. That's not how this stuff goes. This match will burn so fast that by the time you see it burning, it's already reached its destination. You don't have time to react or to get out of the way. And so it's really careful when you're dealing with these kinds of, large mortars, that you are always being careful not to be sort of in the line of fire. Because if it does, your head is not enough to stop that projectile from reaching its full destination. It'll just, it'll put a hole in you, no problem. Now that pink wire is for the electric matches. So what's being done right now, you can see that person in the background. What they're doing is they are matching this up. Now, I see somebody saying, you're so close, please be careful. I mean, you got to be careful. You got to be close for this. But in theory, if I standing here taking this picture, let's say one of those big blue 6-inch tubes went off right now. If it went off properly, I would have a bad day. I'd probably need to change my pants. But I would probably not be dead. If it popped up and then blew up right on the, right just outside the tube, then it would kill me 100%. But if it goes up into the sky, I'm probably going to be okay. I'm just going to show you a picture here of, what is it? Me with my absolutely god-awful coat, just because you guys can see sort of just how sketchy I look when I'm doing this stuff sometimes. There we go. So this is me working a show. And I'm right now, you can see what I'm doing is I am actually loading an 8-inch shell. And that 8-inch shell is, if that went off right there, I would lose that arm. This was from a few years back. And you know how you can tell that it's a few years back? I had some dark in my hair still. Those days have passed. But that coat, I love this coat, even though it's an absolutely terrible coat, because it sheds rain like nobody's business. And I've got some spare electric match in my pocket there. All of that, and I'm feeding that into the tube, making sure that goes. And yeah. And I see somebody here saying 1966 on the 4th of July, a spark from a previous firework fell back onto the Dodge truck and set off 1,500 fireworks. You could hear the explosion 10 miles away. 2 minor injuries, no one killed. When we set off the show, we do it from a distance where if it did go off, nobody would be hurt, and that is for fairly obvious reasons. That said, I have got from previous years some really good pictures. I'll share one of those pictures with you guys. I love some of these pictures. And that was, just trying to find the right picture here. How do you like that? Is that not amazing? So, that I think is just one of these wonderful shots. I see. Is that a wax coat? No, that's just I'm actually going to probably replace that with an oilskin coat so that I'm going to order one fairly quickly here. So yeah, that I think that's a great picture. I think that's just sort of a little magical moment, and you get to have those doing these. You get to it's kind of a great little moment there. Those are kind of why I love doing the fireworks. I always love seeing it. I love doing it. It's fun, and it's a lot of work, especially for a guy with a bad back. You go out there and you spend a lot of time hauling stuff out there. It says, can't believe you've not been completely silver elephant hair for your whole life. Can't imagine you with short, darker hair. I used to have shorter, darker hair for a long time. Somebody was asking, how do you get doing this? Like, do you need a license? And you absolutely do need a license for the big stuff. There's what they call family product, which you can have. You can do the family product without a license, but that's limited. All of the stuff that you saw there is sort of is commercial product, and for setting off the commercial product, you need a license. For the stuff that goes up into the air, that license is a display fireworks license, and I have the display assistant license, which is sort of the lowest level. But you take a course. It's about 8 hours. It's got a test on it, and then once that's done, you Once that's done, you're qualified to act under the supervision of somebody else. Supervision of a fireworks supervisor. Oh, and I'm going through some of my camera photos to find the fireworks photos. I got to share this one just because it's not fireworks. This is that's Zora. So somebody was asking, how did I get into it? I saw somebody was doing the course and I thought that sounds cool. I totally want to do that. And so I basically signed up and went, yeah, I want to do it. And then after I signed up and took the course, they contacted me and said, hey, you took our course. Would you like to help out and do a show? And I was like, yes, I would. I would absolutely. And yeah, so yeah, it's a good course, and you always want to be super careful because you are playing with explosives, and once you're playing with explosives, there's always the risk that that something goes wrong, and that's not somewhere I want to be. But yeah, and people have also been asking about potters, so I'll share with you guys another picture here just as I go through some of my photos here. Oops, that's the wrong one. So how's that for cute? Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? Somebody said, have I ever experienced loading and firing a cannon? I have not, but I would love to. So yeah, I enjoy doing the fireworks. As I said, I think it's a fairly safe activity there, but you got to be cautious. You got to be careful. I'm just let me just somebody says, do you get paid for that? You do. They do pay for for crew, because of course you're going out there and you're doing work. So I mean, I'm not out really there for the money. I'm just out there for to see what's going on. So Zora is gorgeous and looks very happy. Zora is an amazingly sweet dog. So is Potter. They are lovely dogs. I have lucked out tremendously in terms of that over time. And I see what happens with the misfired ones. The misfired ones have to get de-bombed, and yeah, and so that then they might get reused, and they might or they might get disposed of and dumped. Somebody says, why do the pups sleep in harnesses? Believe it or not, the pups like the harnesses, and they basically stay in them all the time. If we take the pups out of the harness, they start getting nervous and they start getting unhappy. So they just kind of live in those, and they're happier doing them. Somebody says licensure is like cancer. Well, I don't agree with all this. I mean, for the big fireworks, you kind of don't want somebody dropping those onto a crowd, because yeah, if they drop that into if they drop that into a crowd of people, that could cause a lot of damage, and that's not something you really want. So yeah, that's sort of why they have that. So he says, is an M2 Browning machine gun considered a cannon? No. So that would not be considered a cannon. But I kind of want to check out a cannon and see that there are provisions for cannons here in Canada. So that would be kind of a neat thing. I'm just scrolling through a bunch of these things, just trying to find. So I'll show you guys a bit of the fireworks video, and I can sort of talk a little bit about what's happening in it, because you guys can see a little bit of kind of the sauce or kind of some of the details there. So what he says, do I cover canon law? I should actually do a video on that. Somebody says the dark dog just won. They're huge. They are big dogs. My wife and I like big doggos. Have I ever hand fired a 3-inch salute? I have. They have a bit of an impact. You feel them when they go. Doing that with a what is it? With a hand match there, or a road flare. check out a cannon from your local armory on a month rental. I don't know if they do that, but that would be super cool. All right, so let me. So when you see these ones up, I'm just gonna make that a little quieter here. So these ones up in the sky, those are those big mortars that you see. Now, a lot of the show is going to be this lower ground stuff. Maybe I'll just mute it entirely just so you can hear me. The lower ground stuff is all done with cakes, and those cakes come in larger packages where it might have like, 50 rounds in it in a compact box. And those 50 round, that helps really stretch out a show because you can't do a show with just entirely the big stuff. So all of this stuff that you see at the lower level, this stuff sparkling there, those are from cakes. And all of this stuff later sort of leaves stuff that you have to clean up. But somebody's saying, do cannons come under firearms? Where do they sit legally? They are firearms. They may or may not be 84 sub 3 firearms. So some of them will be legal. Some of them will not be legal. But yeah. And I see used to do reenactment, also done sword work and archery. That is super cool. And had a mini cannon for a long time. Blacksmith made it for my dad. Oh, sorry you don't have that anymore. But yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about the fireworks with you guys because I really enjoyed doing that. And yeah, so gonna shoot a cannon before the end of the year now. That is super cool. Where in Canada did the fireworks show take place? This was the main show in Edmonton. This was at Kinsman Park. Somebody says, are the purples and blues more expensive or harder to get? I don't actually know about the pricing because all of this stuff is expensive. It's, yeah. And I know that the Americans in the crowd here are going to be doing their, they're going to have their fireworks in just tomorrow. So that I would love to, you guys can share your stuff out there too. But now you guys will know a little bit more about how, how these shows are set up, what's involved in them. So he's saying living next to Disneyland ruined me for fireworks. Oh man, that would have been like every night, wouldn't it? Ouch. Is it? How is the order that the fireworks go off decided? That is pre-planned, and on a show like this, everything is very heavily choreographed. They will have planned this all out into sort of displays that they want to show. So all of that is being set off automatically on a timer. The show is pre-done. Now, some other shows you might just be sending stuff up as you want to, but here it's always just this show will be with a pre-planned electronic computerized system. Have we ever tried quiet ones? Asking for my dog Ravioli. I haven't because I am I'm just sort of a helper on this. I just am the person or one of the people who sort of helps set stuff up and take stuff down. The decisions on what stuff goes up are not mine, so that'll be something else there. Live in Vegas, they just shoot fireworks for whatever at this point. Yeah. Like a guy with the name Sequence Pyro has ever fired anything. That's pretty funny. It's and paralegal here, we're always waiting at our computer for the names of potential jurors, and we immediately start running background checks on them and report back. No way this isn't shenanigans. No kidding. Like how do they not do that? Fireworks are a nice soul cleanse after Elaine's motion. Thank you, Runkle. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, especially that bit with the juror. That's maybe less of a motion and more of a movement, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Danny Marshall, wrongful conviction. I'll write that down and have a look at it. So I'm just taking a note here. So just taking a note there. I did catch that one was facetious. So yeah, I quite love the you know, I like the fireworks. I like the setup. I like the feeling there. Oh, and I see Secret McSquirrel is saying that had to mute. Uh, was it? I am muting the fireworks. Just noting that. What is it? Muting the fireworks just so that you guys can. Some people are noting that their pets don't like it, so I'll kill that. But yeah, I get that fireworks can be controversial. They're wildlife might not like it. Although this is downtown Edmonton, there's not a lot of wildlife happening around here. Similarly, we are super careful with fire stuff, and just trying to make sure that that's not a thing. But yeah, I do feel for people whose pets have an issue with it. My dogs have never been upset by that, uh, and my dogs are sort of fairly chill. But we also have a really soundproof house. These I love. I love this part of the show. This was my favorite little moment here. This I love the ones that have these sort of trailing sparks. I'm not sure what they're called there, but yeah, it's beautiful. I also want to I'll share a story as well here. Just so the one year, one of the things that actually kind of interrupted things was that somebody had they found a body, and that was kind of a weird moment because somebody had unalived themselves from the bridge, and that was found when the fireworks were getting set up, and that was tragic, but it's good that they were found. But still, it was sort of a whole thing aspect there. Somebody says they have a friend every year who has a horse run through a fence. That's not good. And so it says the living on the res there. Local fireworks are just okay. The private ones are a much better show. Somebody says recommend someday experiencing fireworks in Chiang Mai on the Loy Krathong holiday. That would be awesome. So, yeah. Somebody says if you have pets from a young age, it's a good tip to put on fireworks or thunder on the TV really loudly over the months so they become immune to it. That's a good thought. Somebody says didn't realize the weather forecasted snowflakes. I mean, people can have different opinions. It's all good. All right. I think I will. And I see brocade crown. Thank you. I still need to learn all the terms. The other thing is that sometimes different brands have different names as to what they call stuff. So sometimes you can get very similar effects, but the different brands call them different things. And somebody says the only ones I find too loud are the homemade ones. Yeah, none of these are homemade. I think this is the big finale that we're seeing right now. This is it's doing a little bit of stopping and starting for me. I hope I hope you guys are seeing it, but so he says dogs are impressionable for the first 100 days of life. Time to walk them on all surfaces and exposed to all noises. Show the dogs all the things. Oh yes, and here I am panning to the crowd. The crowd was cheering and hooting and hollering at this point. So yeah, I enjoy those. I just I like the setup too. I like the I mean, I don't know why, it might be my sort of attention deficit brain. I really like doing the wiring. I like that sort of finicky stuff. I like doing that that kind of fiddly work. And I like you got to be kind of accuracy, you got to be accurate about it because At the end of the day, you got to do continuity checks to see that everything got wired correctly. You got to do checks to see that everything, and you want to see ideally every bit of product, the sort of fireworks, go up into the air. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's kind of it here. We went over that motion, and the good, the bad. The good's only okay-ish. The bad's real bad, and the ugly is real ugly. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Thank you for letting me kind of nerd out about fireworks as well. And I'll just maybe I'll share a little bit of a palate cleanser for the people who the people who do not like the boom. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna find the right video here. Sorry, I'm just going to find you guys the right video clip here. And it is the one ending in 549. Where did I put that? There we go. All right, let's have a palate cleanser here. That was the pups there. The Zora is a little tiny one. And William Flanagan, can you buy surplus artillery like a howitzer from the Canadian Department of Defense? No, they do not sell anything. And yeah. Some people are upset about muting it. Sorry, it just is what it is. And yeah, the pups are calling me. I should probably spend some time hugging the pups just before I go in there. But before I have to go and do some work. These two dogs really get along really well. I really lucked out on that because they have a great time together. But I'm going to wrap it up here. You can hear Zora wants some attention. So have a good evening. Thank you for joining me, and see you guys next time.